Chapter 131. Since his rebirth, the only thing Lin Jun was afraid of was that if he returned to the time of his rebirth, would he encounter a black hole? He had never stopped thinking about this question, and the answer he came up with was definitely yes. A reborn person was like a butterfly. The flapping of his wings might cause an ocean storm, but it was absolutely impossible to change a black hole in the universe. At that time, the black hole would still appear. Lin Jun didn't know if he would have a chance to dodge it. Would he not encounter it if he didn't go there? He didn't have an accurate answer in his heart. He was worried that all his efforts would be destroyed by the black hole in the universe. Maybe there wouldn't be a rebirth at that time. With a heavy heart, Lin Jun put on the helmet. He hoped that he wouldn't encounter a black hole in the universe. The scene in front of him darkened. When Lin Jun opened his eyes, he immediately forgot everything in the real world. In front of him was a vast and endless starry sky. Starlight flickered, and the scene in the depths of the universe was still as enchanting as ever. But what shocked him was that in the galaxy, the sky opened and the tide counterattacked. The terrifying black hole spun like a vortex. Countless stars were like water droplets, rushing to be the first to rush into the all-devouring black hole in the starry sky. Lin Jun looked at the black hole in front of him and felt a tremor from the depths of his soul. This was the most irresistible thing in the universe. A black hole could devour everything. No matter what matter it was, it would be decomposed and compressed. It was said that the matter in a black hole was highly condensed. A sphere the size of a steel ball could weigh hundreds of thousands of tons. An object the size of a volleyball could cause a small planet to deviate from its orbit. That was the birthplace of a star's core. The energy was rampant, and the power was enough to destroy the world. Lin Jun thought of the experience of passing through a black hole in his previous life. He didn't know why he had to do it again. His first instinct was to resist, but his resistance was futile. His strength was negligible in front of the black hole. He was instantly pulled into the black hole. A sense of helplessness came from his soul. He felt that everything was over. His body seemed to shatter. Around him were bursts of cosmic storms. Planets were shattered around him. Supernovas were constantly exploding. He wanted to simply close his eyes and go with the flow. It felt like thousands of years had passed, but it also felt like an instant. Lin Jun felt an unyielding cry from his soul. I can't give up. I can't give up like this. I was lucky enough to get a chance to be reborn. How can I just give up like this? If I can pass through the black hole once, I can pass through it again. If I don't even dare to try, what qualifications do I have to be reborn? I might as well die. Lin Jun channeled his insignificant power and began to resist the power of the black hole. Lin Jun opened his eyes and found that he was lying on a chair. Su Mingwe was sitting on the side and looking at him. He didn't know what she was thinking. The system beeped. Lin Jun, 6 points pass. Lin Jun let out a long sigh. That was close. If he had delayed any longer, he might have failed. If he had been eliminated in the final stage, that would have been too sad. Su Mingwe's score came out earlier than Lin Jun. She passed with 7 points. After Lin Jun got 6 points, Su Mingwe overtook him by 5 points. Her total score was first in the beginner group. Lin Jun looked at the final score and smiled. He said to Su Mingwe, "Congratulations, you won." Su Mingwe looked at the score and then looked at Lin Jun. She hesitated for a moment before saying, "You're a talent. I want to find an opportunity to talk to you." Lin Jun was stunned. He never thought that Su Mingwe was someone who was willing to talk to men. So, why did you want to talk to him? What do you want to talk about? Lin Jun asked. "You are disrespectful to the true God, so I want to save you," Su Mingwe said seriously, without the slightest intention of joking. Lin Jun couldn't help but roll his eyes. He knew that it was hard to talk to this kind of religious fanatic. He could only say, "I still want to save you. Let's talk when we have time." "Okay, I will look for you when we are in the canopy," Su Mingwe said in a serious tone and got up to leave. Su Mingwe got 46 points, overtaking Li Changjing and taking first place in the advanced group. The Northwest Military Academy was overtaken at the last minute and lost 2 first places in their group. The total score of each base city was soon tabulated. The Northwest Military Academy had 1 first place and 2 second places. Although their results were not bad, there were no talents in other positions. They lost to Beijing Bay City by 1 point. Jiang Huai from Shanghai Bay City got 3rd place in the advanced group. There were also a lot of people in other positions and got 3rd place overall. Lin Jun from Bingqing Bay City got 1st place in the beginner group at the last minute and got 4th place overall. Southern Bay City got 5th place. Tianfu was the first Bay City to be established, but this time it had no talents and got last place overall. If it wasn't for Lin Jun's last-minute comeback, the Northwest Military Academy would be in 1st place and Bingqing would be in last place. It could be said that he changed the ranking of all the Bay cities. Some are happy and some are sad. Guan Shanhua finally let out a sigh of relief. He was very satisfied that Bingqing Bay City got rid of the last place. So far, out of the 300 participants, a total of 220 people were eliminated. Only 80 people successfully passed the stairway to heaven and were qualified to enter the canopy of the stellar fruit tree. Next, the eliminated participants were sent away. They were strictly ordered not to reveal anything about the Divine General's training camp. The rest of the participants were given the awards. Lin Jun got 3 billion in cash. His net worth broke through the 10 billion mark and reached 11 billion. Zhang Yi got 10th place in the beginner group and also got 300 million in cash. He was very excited about it. After the eliminated participants were sent away, the remaining 80 people gathered on the platform on the 5th floor after a short rest. Guo stood in front of the group and said to everyone, "First of all, congratulations on passing the stairway to heaven and officially becoming a member of the Divine General's training camp. The stairway to heaven tests your basic qualities in all aspects. Now that you're qualified to enter the canopy of the stellar fruit tree, I will tell you something." Guo said and pointed behind them, "Look at what's behind you." Everyone turned around. The platform was located on a branch that was more than 100 meters wide. Looking down, they could vaguely see a white light in the distance. Is that water? How can there be water in the middle of the tree? And the area is not small. It's true. It looks like a lake. Guo smiled. That's Tree Heart Lake. At the top of the trunk, the branches begin to diverge, forming the canopy. In the middle of the many branches, there'll be a deep hole. Most of the rainwater that falls from the fruit tree will eventually flow into this hole, forming the Tree Heart Lake. Don't underestimate it. Its diameter is more than 10 kilometers, and the deepest part is nearly 100 meters deep. It's not a small lake. Everyone was surprised. A lake with a diameter of more than 10 kilometers was difficult to see with the naked eye. It was indeed very large. They didn't expect such a huge lake to exist on a tree. Just thinking about it made them feel that it was inconceivable. You will soon go deep into the canopy. In order to find the star crystals, you will inevitably have to go deeper. At that time, you might get lost. If you really can't find the way back, then go down as far as you can. As long as you find this Tree Heart Lake, then you'll find our platform. This is the only way back, understand? The warriors nodded and remembered the Tree Heart Lake. This was the place closest to the platform. Our platform has advanced to the Tree Heart Lake, but this place is not deep into the canopy, so I can talk to you here. Once you enter the canopy area, you will no longer see a warlord because the energy in the fruit tree will reject the dantian of a warlord. Therefore, the strongest person in the canopy area is only a level 9 warlord. At this time, Jiang Huai from Shanghai asked, "Chief Instructor, are there other people in the canopy area?" This is an important thing I want to tell you. Listen carefully. At this point, Guomo's expression turned solemn. The Divine General Training Camp has been running for hundreds of years. Every year, warlord-level marshalists would enter. However, less than a quarter of the warlords that made it out in the end. Not even a quarter. Where did those warlords go? They might have been killed by the insects in the canopy, or they might have died at the hands of other warlords while fighting for the star crystal. In addition to these 2 reasons, there is another reason. These people did not come out. Everyone was stunned. Why did they stay in the canopy and not come out? Guo continued. There are many reasons why they did not come out, but the most common reason is that they are guarding a special star crystal and waiting for it to mature before leaving. Chief Instructor, what is a special star crystal? Another warrior asked. I told you before that a star crystal is truly mature when it reaches the stellar stage. However, when some star crystals absorb the energy of the universe, some special energy will enter, such as fire energy, wind energy, and even space energy. These star crystals are called special star crystals. If a warrior can absorb them, he or she will very likely obtain special abilities. This kind of opportunity is very rare. Basically, no one will give up once they encounter it. Those warlords who are unwilling to come out may have encountered a special star crystal that has not matured yet. Therefore, they would rather stay and wait for it to mature, treating it as their exclusive property. If a later warrior discovers it, then it will be the beginning of a fight. As far as I know, there are often fights inside the starfruit tree. However, warlords like us are unable to enter, so I can't do anything about this fight and can't stop it. Chapter 132. One of the fighters couldn't help but speak up. We're all from the same training camp. Why would they do this to us? Many of the fighters beside him looked at him with disdain. No fighter would back down when it comes to increasing their strength. With such naive thinking, how long can he survive in the fruit tree is really a problem. This isn't the stairway to heaven test. You have to be kind to someone. Between fighters, especially those who aren't familiar with each other, kindness is the most useless thing. Mo continued. That's all I have to say. The inside of the stellar fruit tree is another world. It's a world without laws, where strength is everything. In short, you have to be careful. Also, those mutated insects are also very scary. If you think you're not strong enough, then it's best to form a group. The Northwest Army's people were full of confidence. They were the most united team, so they had a higher chance of winning in the stellar fruit tree. Guan Shanwei added, now that you're ready, you can enter the stellar fruit tree. Check your things and see if you're missing anything. Once you enter the stellar fruit tree, you can't leave on your own until you break through to the War God rank. If you feel like you can't hold on any longer, you can return to the platform. However, you'll lose the right to continue, which is equivalent to giving up. Once you break through to the War God rank, the stellar fruit tree won't be able to contain you. You need to return to the platform as soon as possible. A war god can't survive for more than 3 days inside the stellar fruit tree. You must remember this. As he spoke, the fighters began to check their things. This trip won't be a day or two. It might even take 3 to 5 years. If you don't break through to the war god rank, don't even think about leaving, unless you give up. Guillermo only gave the order after everyone was done checking and there was nothing missing. Good. Now that you've finished the stairway to heaven test, you can enter the stellar fruit tree. I wish you all the best. If everyone can break through to the war god rank, the training camp will definitely hold a banquet to celebrate. Finished speaking, Guillermo waved his hand. Let's go. Guillermo was the first to leave, followed by the instructors. They all went down the stairway to heaven after everyone left. No one was left behind to guard the platform. They no longer cared about this group of elite fighters. With the instructors gone, only 80 fighters were left. The atmosphere was a lot more relaxed. Huang Yinglai from Tianfu Bay City said, I think the drill master might be exaggerating. Even if those warlords staying in the fruit tree are very strong, many of us are already 9th grade warlords. Even if we don't come to the Immortal General Training Camp, we should be able to break through to the warlord realm within a year. Are those people really that much stronger than us? Yinglai, Song Tianming from the advanced in the advanced rank of the advanced rank. I've defeated a war god rank. Some people around him praised him. He was a little proud. Although he was only ranked 6th in the advanced group, he was still a proud martial artist. Wah! Treeheart Lake, I'm finally out. I'm finally out of this damned place. His voice sounded far away at first, but by the time he finished speaking, he was already nearby. From this, it could be seen that this person was very fast. Hearing the whistling sound, everyone knew it was a war god. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so powerful. The atmosphere became tense. Not far away, There was a small branch with a width of dozens of meters. The whistling sound came from there. A figure broke through the huge green leaves and flew down. In less than 10 seconds, this person ran a few hundred meters and arrived in front of the fighters. When people saw this warrior's appearance, they wanted to laugh. This person's clothes were tattered, and his hair looked like a bunch of messy grass. It was still wet and looked like it had just been washed, but it still looked like a bunch of messy grass. There were scars all over his body. He was so dirty that it seemed like he could be rubbed off with a light rub. However, the aura he emitted was very strong. He was a war god, or rather, a man who had just entered the war god rank. The man was stunned when he saw the 80 fighters. Then he grinned, This must be the little guy who just joined the Divine General Training Camp this year. How nice. Seeing you energetic little things. I feel a few years younger. Huang Yinglai stood in front of the group and curled his lips. Aren't you also a member of the Divine General Training Camp? Besides, how much older can you be than us? You've only been on this fruit tree for about a year. Why are you acting like you're older? The man was stunned for a moment. Then, a strange smile appeared on his face. Little thing, your temper isn't small. This really reminds me of when I first came here. But let me correct you. I haven't been here for a year. I've been here for 8 years. 8 years. The fighters were shocked. Even if he was a beginner warlord when he first came here, it was considered slow for him to break through to the war god rank in 8 years. This person shouldn't be so bad. However, they didn't expect this person to say something so shocking. Like many of you, I was also a 9th rank warlord when I came here. Hearing this, Song Tianming sneered. It took you 8 years to break through to the war god rank from a 9th rank warlord. You're really bad. The man squinted his eyes. I broke through to the war god rank today and was in a very good mood. I thought I could finally leave this damn place. However, I didn't expect to meet a group of people like you who don't know how to respect your seniors. Perhaps I'll have to show you the power of the experts in the stellar fruit tree. Huang Yinglai and Song Tianming stood out together. Both of them were 9th rank warlords. Moreover, they were the best of the best. Either one of them had the ability to fight against a beginner war god for a while. If the two of them worked together, they wouldn't be easily defeated. Dirty, stinking thing, show me what you've got. I'll let you know the power of this batch of divine generals. It took you 8 years to become a war god. I don't think you have any skills. Bring it on. The dirty war god glanced at the two of them and sneered. The light of a firefly dares to compete with the radiance of the bright moon. After speaking, the person suddenly moved. It was as if he had teleported. The two of them only felt a gust of wind blow against their faces. The person was already in front of them. They didn't even have time to pull out their weapons. They only saw 2 fists enlarging in front of their eyes. The two of them weren't completely useless. They both raised their arms to block. As long as they could block this attack, it would be time for them to work together to counterattack. Boom! The fist and the arm collided. A strong force surged forth. Huang Yinglai and Song Tianming both screamed and flew out. Their bodies were actually sent flying off the platform. They were about to fall down the tree. The two of them weren't spirit readers. If they fell down like this, they would definitely die. Everyone exclaimed anxiously, but that war god suddenly rushed out again. A gust of wind blew past, causing people's cheeks to hurt. They saw a series of afterimages pass by. This person grabbed their ankles just as they were about to fall and threw them back heavily. The two of them were like broken dolls as they were thrown onto a thick pillar-like branch without any resistance. They both spat out a mouthful of blood and their bodies fell. The person's performance wasn't over yet. He jumped in front of the two of them and stepped on their chests. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on their chests. The two of them tried their best to pull at the person's ankles, but they couldn't move them at all. Is this still a beginner-level war god? This is simply a crushing defeat. This person's strength and speed are ridiculously strong. I think normal intermediate-level war gods aren't as strong as him. Is this the strength of a warrior who stayed inside the stellar fruit tree? Heavens! It looks like he just broke through not too long ago. Chief Instructor Gui said that war gods can't stay inside the treetop for more than 3 days. This means that he only broke through 1 or 2 days ago. He's already so strong. Lin Jun was also slightly moved. The war gods that came out of the divine general training camp all had shocking strength. Moreover, this person had obviously obtained some kind of special star crystal that strengthened his speed and strength. That was why he was so strong. In addition, Huang Yinglai and Song Tianming had obviously underestimated their opponent and were caught off guard. That was why there was such a huge contrast. Of course, even if the two of them were prepared, they definitely wouldn't be this person's opponent. Do you guys submit? The person lowered his head and looked at Huang Yinglai and Song Tianming. The two of them couldn't speak due to the pressure on their chests, but they nodded with all their might. The difference in strength was too great. They couldn't resist at all. They had to submit. Seeing this, the person released his foot and jumped down. Then, he laughed at the shocked crowd. Little guys, I'm just teaching you a lesson. Spitting blood is nothing. Remember, when you enter the stellar fruit tree, don't be too arrogant when you meet seniors. There are many people with strength like mine, and some are even stronger than mine. You guys can't afford to offend them. After speaking, the guy waved his hand. Let's go. That old man Guillermo said that he'll treat whoever graduates to a drink. I have to go find him. Also, my handsome brother has become like this. I have to go take a bath. Damn, every pool here has mutated beasts and insects. I haven't had a good bath for many years. After speaking, the person walked down the stairway. At this time, the Mo-Do warrior Jiang Huai asked, Senior, what's your name? My name is Liang Feng. If you guys meet a strong enemy inside, you can mention my name. But it might not work. There are many people who don't like me. It's up to you guys. After speaking, Liang Feng disappeared at the turn of the stairway. His speed was incomparably fast. It was obvious that he couldn't stand staying here anymore. Chapter 133. Well, don't look anymore. Let's go our separate ways. Northwest Army. Those who are willing to follow me, leave immediately. Li Changjing looked at Liang Feng's back as he left. His eyes were full of fighting spirit and yearning. He wanted to fight with this person, but he knew he was no match for him. Therefore, he couldn't wait to enter the stellar fruit tree to find star crystals to improve his strength. Sooner or later, he would become a powerful martial artist like Liang Feng. When Li Changjing left, Sui Chonglong and the others from the Northwest Army followed behind. Among the 80 people, more than 10 of them were from the Northwest Army. In just a short while, half of them had left. After the people from the Northwest Army left, Su Mingyue also got up and left, but she walked on another branch. The main branches here were unimaginably wide, even wider than a river. The countless small branches around were hundreds of meters wide, or even more. Huge leaves covered the sky, and the smallest one was the size of a building. It was like a treetop country. Su Mingyue didn't take all the martial artists from the capital with her. Only 4 or 5 female martial artists followed behind her. Tang Yu saw Su Mingyue leaving and seemed to want to follow her. However, Su Mingyue didn't invite him, so he was a bit embarrassed. After the people from the south and Shanghai left, he got up and left alone. He also walked in the same direction as Su Mingyue. Many martial artists from Bingsheng also walked into the depths of the trees. Lu Qingfeng glanced at Lin Jun and didn't say anything. He left alone. Han Fengju and Wu Ming walked together. Lin Jun even saw Ma Mingxing enter the intermediate warlord group and leave with 2 martial artists from Shanghai. Even Lin Jun's roommate Sun Tai, the silent Tian Fu martial artist, also chose to leave alone. In fact, most martial artists acted alone. After all, few martial artists were as united and disciplined as the Northwest Army. If they encountered star crystals, it wouldn't be easy to distribute them. It was more convenient to act alone. There were fewer and fewer people. The martial artists followed their instincts and walked in all directions. They walked into the depths of the trees and soon disappeared. In the end, only Zhang Yu was left beside Lin Jun. Zhang Yu looked at the sky and said to Lin Jun, "Idol, it's getting late. Where are we going?" Lin Jun glanced at him. "Aren't you going to act alone?" Zhang Yu chuckled. "No, I'll go wherever my idol goes." Lin Jun was speechless. He thought for a moment and said, "Then don't you have any plans of your own?" "Of course there is. According to my plan, the 2 of us will find a tree pit nearby and stay there. We won't go too deep. We'll have a barbecue and drink here. I brought a lot of food. Aren't we going deeper into the trees? Barbecue and wine here? Why? Lin Jun asked, puzzled. Zhang Yu said confidently, Idle, you didn't read the book carefully. Mutant fireflies appear in the depths of the forest at night. If you encounter them, you'll be in trouble. Why don't you just rest here? Lin Jun slapped his head. Idiot, there are indeed mutant fireflies at night. But if we light a fire here, aren't you afraid of attracting a large group of mutant mosquitoes and sucking us dry? Zhang Yu was stunned. Then what do we do? What else can we do? Let's go deeper. We'll have to go in sooner or later. We can hide for a while, but we can't hide forever. It's better to get used to it early. Lin Jun walked in front, and Zhang Yu followed closely behind. The two of them quickly disappeared into the trees. After walking into the canopy area, they realized that there was really a different world inside. Every branch was high and low, not to mention walking on it. Even a sports car could walk side by side. The huge leaves were like clouds everywhere. Walking in the depths of the forest, one would have the illusion that they were just an ant. Not even an ant, but a bacterium, a microorganism. The light inside was dim. The two of them walked for a while before they gradually got used to the brightness. Even if it was daytime, it was still like dusk, not to mention that it was really dusk now. The two of them walked up a steep branch. Zhang Yu called out to Lin Jun. Ida, look what I found. Lin Jun walked over and saw a huge withered flower. The leaves were pulled down, and the huge flower heart was empty of nectar. Chapter 134. Lin Jun felt an ominous gust of wind above his head and reacted immediately. The bright silver spear appeared in his hand, forming a screen of spears above his head. After a fierce collision, the black shadow retreated, but it left behind a dizzying cloud of dust. Lin Jun shook the bright silver spear in his hand, spinning it like a windmill. The powerful spinning force blew away all the dust, and only then did he have time to look at the thing that attacked him. The thing was standing on a tree branch not far away. Its two wings were raised high, reaching a height of more than 5 meters. Its wings had a large compound eye pattern, and there were antennae on its forehead. Its eyes were crystal-like, and its body was slender. It was actually a huge mutated moth. Moths were nocturnal creatures. Even after mutating, they still chased after light. That was why there was the saying of moths flying into flames. This thing had appeared here because it was attracted by the star crystal. In the end, it encountered Lin Jun and instinctively wanted to hunt him down. Lin Jun moved his feet lightly, waving the spear in his hand. He looked at the thing vigilantly. Although he had a lot of combat experience in his previous life, he had never fought with a mutated insect. This was because mutated insects could only be found in the starfruit tree. Although the insect had mutated and its body was huge, its brain capacity determined that it did not have a high IQ. After missing its attack, the mutated moth did not feel that this prey was difficult to deal with. It flapped its wings twice, and a cloud of dust rose from its body. Its mouth actually made a hissing sound, and it once again pounced on Lin Jun. Lin Jun was still a little dizzy. The dust on the moth's body seemed to have the effect of making people unconscious. Fortunately, he used his spear to blow it away, or else he would have already fallen. Seeing the moth attack again, Lin Jun immediately held his breath. His feet kicked off the tree trunk, and his body jumped up. His bright silver spear struck out like lightning. Torrential rain. Countless lightning particles burst out at this moment. The speed of Lin Jun's long spear had reached an inconceivable level, and a torrential rain of spear lights flashed. The speed of this giant moth was not fast, so how could it avoid Lin Jun's torrential rain? Both of its wings were smashed into pieces, and it was no longer able to fly. It spun around and fell to the ground. Lin Jun landed on the ground, his footsteps staggering. Although he had held his breath, he was still somewhat unable to control himself during the battle, and he had unavoidably inhaled some dust. What a tyrannical powder. I can't fight for long. Get rid of it. Lin Jun took a step forward and arrived in front of the fluttering moth. He put away his spear and transformed the liquid metal at his waist into a long sword. With a swing of his hand, he cut off the moth's head. Light green liquid flowed out along with the internal organs, giving off a foul smell. Lin Jun did not care at all. He dug his sword into the brain, and a gray crystal appeared. This kind of mutant insect's crystal is similar to a mutant beast crystal. It is the energy core of its mutation. Although it is useless now, I can collect it and sell it to the Ministry of Science and Technology. Because Lin Jun was a member of the Ministry of Science and Technology, he had once seen a gray crystal on the Ministry of Science and Technology's website. At that time, he did not realize what it was, but now he remembered that it was a mutant insect's crystal. Because the number of mutant insects was far less than mutant beasts, only people in the Divine General Training Camp had the opportunity to obtain them. Therefore, the price of this thing was more than twice as expensive as a mutant beast crystal. Lin Jun had long planned to collect it. Holding the crystal in his hand, Lin Jun first put it under his nose and took a deep breath. A cool breath was injected into his brain, and the feeling of dizziness in his head disappeared. Sure enough, the best way to break the influence of mutant insects is to use their crystal. This can be considered as the person who started the trouble needs to untie it. With his mind clear, Lin Jun did not care about the dead moth. Instead, he prepared to go back to the flower bud to pick the star core crystal. However, as soon as he walked over, he found a person on the flower bud. This person had also just arrived and was reaching out to pick the star core crystal. Lin Jun could not help but be furious and immediately shouted, "Stop! That's mine." The person turned around, and Lin Jun saw his face with the help of the light from the star core crystal. This person was an intermediate warlord and looked somewhat familiar. He was clearly one of the 80 warlords who had entered the tree this time. After thinking carefully, he seemed to be a warrior who ranked 7th in the intermediate warlord group. His name was Li Yuan. Lin Jun. Li Yuan was stunned for a moment when he saw Lin Jun. However, he immediately picked up the star core crystal and said to Lin Jun, "Lin Jun, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you ranked first in the beginner group. We intermediate warlords will not give you face. Star core crystals are first come, first served. What right do you have to say that it's yours?" Once a star core crystal was picked up, it would dissipate if it was not absorbed within 10 minutes. Lin Jun saw that the crystal was already in the hands of this person. He took a deep breath, and the bright silver spear appeared in his hand again. He walked over step by step. "I found this star core crystal, but before I could pick it, I encountered a mutant moth. I had just killed the moth, but you came to pick up the peach that had fallen to the ground. Do you really think that I, Lin Jun, am easy to bully? Put down the star core crystal, and we'll be at peace. Otherwise, you can stay here today." Li Yuan laughed and said, "Lin Jun, you are too arrogant. Yes, your results during the assessment were amazing, but that doesn't mean anything. You only got high marks because your results in the good and evil, courage, and willpower tests were better. I also admit that you are outstanding among the beginner warlords, but in the intermediate group, your actual combat ability can only be regarded as average. You are not even in the top 10. Why do you have to threaten me?" Li Yuan's words were somewhat reasonable. The real test of a warrior's ability was in the 4th test. Lin Jun did not get full marks in the 4th test. Although his score was very high, in the eyes of these intermediate warlords, Lin Jun's technique in killing mutant beasts was a big factor. In terms of strength alone, Lin Jun was definitely not the top figure among these elite intermediate warlords. Of course, Lin Jun did not use gravity during the siege. This was also a factor. As Li Yuan spoke, he held the star crystal in his hand and looked at it. "TSK, TSK. What a beautiful treasure. Lin Jun, if you know what's good for you, don't compete with me. If you use force, I will let you know what an intermediate warlord is." Swish! Before he finished speaking, the star crystal in his hand suddenly flew out of his control and landed directly in Lin Jun's hand. "What's going on?" Li Yuan was shocked. He didn't expect that Lin Jun would be able to use telekinesis when he was more than 10 meters away. With the star crystal in his hand, Lin Jun laughed and stored it in his interspatial ring. In the future, don't forget to store good things immediately when you get them. Otherwise, you will suffer a loss. Give it back. Li Yuan was furious. He He raised his hand, and his sword appeared. Then he attacked Lin Jun. "You are courting death." With the star crystal in his hand, Lin Jun was in a good mood. He attacked without any scruples. He swung his silver spear and was as immovable as a mountain. A series of sparks flew in the dark night. Li Yuan's fierce attack was fruitless, and he retreated with exhaustion. What a strong defense! Li Yuan was shocked. He once again assumed an attacking posture, but there was no contempt in his eyes. Lin Jun didn't want to be entangled with Li Yuan here. The other party was the 7th in the intermediate group. His strength couldn't be underestimated. Although Lin Jun was confident in winning, he wasn't someone who could be defeated in a few moves. Besides, the star crystal would dissipate in 10 minutes. 3 minutes had already passed. "Li Yuan, don't push me too far. If you leave now, we will be safe. Otherwise, you have to be careful. Let's see if you can block my flying daggers in the dark night." As Lin Jun spoke, 5 flying daggers hovered in the air. They were almost undetectable in the dark night. Li Yuan's face suddenly changed. A spirit reader's flying dagger was too difficult to guard against in the dark. He really didn't have the confidence to block it. But when he thought about how the star crystal had been snatched away, he was still unwilling. His feet didn't move. He was clearly prepared to fight to the death with Lin Jun. Lin Jun's face sank. It was rare that he didn't want to be entangled with someone, but this guy didn't want to give him face. Then he had to fight. But it was a pity that he didn't have the time to absorb the star crystal. His strength was still not enough. Lin Jun thirsted for strength more and more. But at this time, Lin Jun saw a giant spider slide down from the sky along a thick silk thread. Its target was Li Yuan. The spider was as big as a small house. Its fangs were exposed, and it looked extremely fierce. It was already above Li Yuan's head. Although Lin Jun wanted to kill, he really didn't want a student in the same batch to be killed by a spider. So he reminded him, "Watch out above your head. A big spider is coming." Unexpectedly, Li Yuan sneered, "Lin Jun, don't try to divert my attention. I know you want to use flying daggers to sneak up on me. This kind of trick has been used too many times. If you have the ability, come to me openly. See if I'm afraid of you." Before Li Yuan could finish his words, the spider's steel pillar-like legs dug into him. Its sharp claws pierced into his muscles, and a strong neurotoxin instantly invaded his brain. The spider's legs moved quickly, and ropes of spider silk quickly wrapped around Li Yuan. Soon, he was tied up like a dumpling. Li Yuan struggled with all his might, but the spider's speed was too fast. Coupled with the neurotoxin's invasion, his resistance became weaker and weaker. 20 seconds. In less than 20 seconds, Li Yuan was completely wrapped up by layers of silk. His face was twisted in pain, and his mouth was wide open. He looked like a mummy that had been injected with mercury. He seemed to want to shout something, but he didn't have the strength to do so. The spider climbed up, and Li Yuan's body disappeared into the leaves. Lin Jun let out a deep breath. Some people are always greedy for things that are beyond their strength. Who can you blame for your death? Lin Jun wasn't in the mood to care about Li Yuan's death. He looked around, ran a few steps, and climbed up a tree trunk. Then, he hid in a hidden depression. The terrain here was hidden, and there was no one to disturb him. The small hole was so small that even large insects couldn't enter. It was perfect for Lin Jun to try to absorb the star core crystal. Chapter 135. Taking out the star crystal from the tree hole, Lin Jun followed the instructions in the survival manual and placed the star crystal in his lower dantian. Circulating the dantian's qi in the same way as usual, the star crystal began to emit traces of light into Lin Jun's body and into his lower dantian. Lin Jun let out a comfortable moan. This feeling was too wonderful. His dantian was warm and comfortable. As traces of energy entered his dantian, Lin Jun's dantian quickly strengthened. The strength of the dantian's qi was determined by the capacity of the dantian. For example, Lin Jun's dantian's qi capacity was currently 900. He might have used up a few dozen during the battle just now. However, the energy that entered his dantian not only immediately replenished Lin Jun's dantian, but it also started to expand. If Lin Zhan's Dantian's chi capacity reached 1,000, he would advance to an intermediate warlord. Then, after absorbing this star core crystal, his Dantian's chi capacity would reach 980. Lin Zhan only opened his eyes when all the energy from the star crystal had been injected and turned into nothingness. Phew! One awesome cultivation speed. Such a small star core crystal that was just born allowed me to take a big step forward from the peak of rank 3. It saved me half a month of cultivation time. I just need one more and I can advance to an intermediate warlord. This is just a newly born star core crystal. If it was a meteor crystal, I'm afraid I would directly advance to the beginner stage of rank 4. After Lin Zhan finished absorbing the star core crystal, he left the tree whole in satisfaction. He followed the same path back to the stamen where Zhang Yu was. After returning to rest for a while, Lin Zhan also took a nap. The sky gradually brightened. Early in the morning dew was thick. Lin Zhan had been tossing and turning for half the night and finally had a good sleep in the morning. Just as he was sleeping soundly, he suddenly felt a gust of cold air assault him. He opened his eyes abruptly. This time, he didn't have time to dodge, and a huge current hit him. Together with Zhang Yu, the two of them were instantly submerged in waist-deep water. Cough, cough. Lin Zhan coughed violently. He choked on a few mouthfuls of water before struggling to get up. Zhang Yu was even worse off. He flopped up and down in the water, occasionally popping his head out and shouting, "Help! I can't swim. Ah, gurgle, gurgle." One moment, his head would sink into the water, and the next moment he would resurface. He looked like he was about to drown. Lin Zhan got up and wiped the water off his face. The water flowed down through the gaps between the petals, becoming less and less. In less than 10 seconds, the water was only ankle deep. Zhang Yu was still struggling. "Wah, there's a mutated beast in the water. He's dragging me into the water. Who's going to save me? Idle." Zhang Yu stood there in a daze, looking at Lin Zhan. The word dumbfounded was written in his eyes. "Have you had enough?" Lin Zhan asked. Zhang Yu was stunned for a moment. "Enough. If that's enough, then get up. It's already morning. I've never seen a warrior who can sleep as much as you. No wonder you're so fat." Zhang Yu stood up like a drowned rat. He still didn't understand the situation and asked Lin Zhan, "Idle, who's plotting against us? Why would they use so much water to plot against us? This doesn't have any lethality. Could it be that my enemies know that I can't swim?" Lin Zhan rolled his eyes. "Save it. How could you have so many enemies? This is the morning dew that fell from the leaves above. The two of us were unlucky and inexperienced. We didn't even notice if there were drooping leaves above the stamen." "Dew." Zhang Yu opened his mouth and looked up. After a while, he lowered his head again. "This place is too scary. The dew can drown people. Why do I feel like an ant?" Lin Zhan twisted his sleeves. "Stop complaining. Get up and get something to eat. I'm so hungry." Warriors can't do without food. When Lin Zhan came, he had some food in his space ring. However, they were all fast food that would only be eaten when there was no food. For example, compressed biscuits, beef jerky, vitamin sugar pills, and the like. Although they can solve hunger, they're really disgusting. No one is willing to eat these things unless it's a last resort. Food? I have it. I brought 2 pig legs. I even brought seasoning. It's in my bag. Zhang Yu said as he rummaged through the stamen for his bag. He didn't have a space ring. He found his bag in a puddle in the corner. When he opened it, the pig legs were wet and the seasoning had turned into a paste. "Idle, I told you that you didn't agree to our barbecue last night. Now look, there's no seasoning." Zhang Yu showed Lin Zhan the empty bag of salt with a bitter face. "There's no seasoning." Lin Zhan was also a bit troubled. He prepared a lot of things, but he really didn't prepare any seasoning. Zhang Yu threw away the seasoning bag and looked at the pig legs. "Idle, this pig leg seems to have some flavor. It's too hot here. The pig leg is spoiled." "It's spoiled." Spoiled things definitely can't be eaten. If a warrior eats something bad, it will affect their fighting strength. Throw it away. Zhang Yu helplessly threw away the pig leg. Lin Zhan took out a few packs of compressed biscuits and sugar pills. The two of them chewed dryly for a while. "Idle, can't we leave this tree until we reach the war god realm?" That's right. Lin Jun swallowed a mouthful of compressed biscuits with difficulty. He didn't bring any water in his space ring, so he could only drink a bit of dew. Why can't we leave? You're a spirit reader who can fly. If you walk under the canopy, can't you just fly out to buy something and come back? Lin Jun shook his head. Guan Shanyue said before we came, and it was written in the survival manual that the outer layer of leaves of the stellar fruit tree has a protective effect. The leaves are very corrosive, not to mention humans. Even aircrafts will be corroded by the leaves. Whoever dares to go near the outermost layer of leaves is courting death. That's why we can only go through the stairway. Otherwise, Liang Feng wouldn't have been in such a hideous state. Zhang Yu's face became even more bitter. Then what should we do? We're just beginner warlords. It'll take at least 1 or 2 years to reach the War God realm. No, 1 or 2 years is impossible. 3, 5, 10, or even 8 years is possible. If I live like this for 3 to 5 years, I'll starve and lose weight. Lin Jun looked at Zhang Yu helplessly. He didn't expect this kid to treat his fat body as a treasure. No wonder he couldn't lose weight no matter how hard he tried. However, what he said made sense. Even Lin Jun, who had been reborn, couldn't bear living like this. There's no good way for the time being. Let's hold on for a while. If we meet other people, see if we can borrow some food or buy some. Lin Jun ate a candy pill and stood up. Don't worry. It's not a bad thing for you to lose weight. Let's go and look for star crystals. I found a star core crystal that just bloomed last night. Wow. Idol, you found a star crystal. That's amazing. Let's go. Zhang Yu patted his butt and stood up. Hearing that the star crystal finally had some motivation, he wasn't jealous of Lin Jun. He was indeed a good teammate. There was no sense of direction in the forest. There were branches and leaves everywhere. After walking for a long time, the two of them were a little confused. It was the same everywhere. They couldn't even distinguish between north, south, east, and west. In the end, Lin Jun took out a compass. He had prepared this before coming here. Let's go this way. Let's try to take some paths that ordinary people don't want to take. Those wide branches must have been passed by people. There probably aren't many star crystals. The two of them started to climb the small branches. They tried their best to go to places with lush branches and leaves that were difficult to reach. After walking for a while, Zhang Yu suddenly twitched his nose. Idol, I think I smell flowers. Oh, your nose is that good? Lin Jun was surprised. I've loved all kinds of food since I was young. I'm very sensitive to smells, especially fragrances. There must be flowers nearby. If there were flowers, it meant that there were star crystals. Once a star crystal was plucked, the flower would wither. Lin Jun was also motivated. Following Zhang Yu's guidance, the two of them passed through layers upon layers of branches. After tearing apart many layers of leaves, they finally found their target. Wow, this is a star crystal. It's so beautiful. In the dim forest, a flower was in full bloom. A beautiful and resplendent star core crystal was suspended above the stamen, emitting soft starlight. The two of them ran over. Lin Jun carefully looked around. After confirming that there were no mutated insects or enemies, he said to Zhang Yu, "You pluck it and absorb it. The more you increase your strength, the more protection we will have." Unexpectedly, Zhang Yu shook his head. "Idol, you should pluck it. I see that you are about to break through to a 4th grade warlord. You should absorb it and increase your strength. This way, we can collect more star crystals and not be afraid of fighting." "No." Lin Jun waved his hand. This was what Zhang Yu had discovered. He didn't want to fight over it. Since the two of them were together, the best way was to take 1 star crystal each. It was better to set the rules early and have fewer worries. Seeing Lin Jun's insistence, Zhang Yu happily accepted the star crystal. After 20 minutes of absorption, Zhang Yu's strength had greatly increased. He had actually directly advanced to a 4th grade warlord. Zhang Yu was originally at the peak of 3rd grade. Moreover, this star crystal was about to enter the meteor stage. Naturally, it was better than the one Lin Jun found. It also contained more energy. It was normal for him to advance to the 4th grade. After Zhang Yu advanced, he felt that his sense of smell seemed to have become more sensitive. The two of them continued to explore the forest. However, this time, their luck wasn't so good. After 3 whole days of walking, they didn't find a second star crystal. They didn't find any star crystals. Instead, they encountered a lot of insects. Fortunately, Lin Jun's strength was strong enough. In addition, his ability to escape was also not bad. Every time, they were scared but not in danger. On the morning of the 3rd day, the two of them ate some jerky with difficulty and prepared to continue their exploration. They hadn't walked far when the sound of someone talking came from a big tree branch in front of them. Lin Jun and Zhang Yu hurriedly hid under a leaf and peeked through the gap. At first, they thought that they might have encountered a student from the same year. However, it turned out that wasn't the case. On the wide tree branch, 4 martial artists were running quickly. Their clothes were tattered beyond recognition. Some of them were even wearing unknown fur. At first glance, it was obvious that they weren't newcomers. Quick, quick! Someone found a few star crystals. Many people are confronting each other. It will belong to whoever grabs it. We of the 496 class must get a share of it. Chapter 136. Through the gaps between the branches and leaves, these people were running very fast. 2 of them were advanced warlords, and the other 2 were intermediate warlords. Zhang Yu's eyes suddenly lit up. Idle, it seems that someone found the star crystal. Should we go and take a look? Lin Jun nodded without hesitation. Do you even need to ask? Of course, we should go and take a look. The 2 of them quietly slid down from the branches and followed behind the 4 warlords. After climbing over several branches and walking for about 1 kilometer, the terrain suddenly opened up. The intersection of the branches was an open area. 3 flowers were blooming on one of the branches, and 3 star crystals were floating on it. 2 of them were at the core stage, and the last one was floating on the stamen of the flower, dragging a long tail behind it. The star crystal was floating on the stamen. It was a meteor stage star core. Lin Jun and Zhang Yu hid on a branch high up and watched carefully. They saw that there were already 3 groups of people gathered in this open area. Including the 4 warlords who just arrived, there were already 4 groups of people gathered here. Among them, there was a group that was particularly eye-catching because it was basically an army of women. The woman in the lead was wearing clothes whiter than snow. Her face was incomparably beautiful. Standing in the forest, she looked like a fairy. It was Su Mingwei. Behind Su Mingwei, Tang Yu was also mixed in with the army of women. However, this lineup was clearly led by Su Mingwei. Apart from Tang Yu, the other 3 female warlords were also from the capital Bay City. In addition to Su Mingyue's group and the 4 new warlords, there were 2 other groups of people. One group of 3 people and the other group of 2 people. The 2 of them were both 9th rank warlords. One of them took the lead to speak. Everyone, I know that you are all here for the star crystal. However, us 2 brothers have been guarding these 3 flowers for almost a month. I hope that you can give us, the 494th batch, some face and not compete with us. Lin Jun's group was the 497th batch of the Divine General's training camp. These 2 people were from the first 3 batches. The 3 of them were also 9th grade warlords. One of them sneered, "What a joke. The star crystal hasn't been plucked yet. It belongs to whoever obtains it. Why should it belong to you after you've guarded it for a month? When we, the 495th class, came here, we were bullied by your 494th class. Some of us even died in your hands. Today, no matter what, we can't let you have the star crystals." The 4 new cultivators also chimed in. You guys from Team 495 aren't good people either. Our Team 496 also suffered a lot from you, so we had no choice but to join forces. A year has passed, and now there are only 4 of us left. If you want to collect star crystals, you'll have to ask for our permission first. The 3 groups of students engaged in a war of words, but none of them took the initiative to attack because there was another group of people present. Just by looking at Su Mingyue and the others' clothes, one could tell that they were new students. This was because only new students' clothes would be so beautiful under the light. Otherwise, if they were rolling around in the forest all day long, even 10 sets of clothes wouldn't be enough. The 3 groups quarreled for a while before the 495th took the lead and suggested, "That group of newcomers, this is a grudge between the old students. I advise you not to get involved, lest you get burned." Tang Yu took the lead and stood out, saying casually, "We are all God's people. We shouldn't kill each other. There are 3 star crystals here, and you 3 groups all want to fight over them. How about this? Whoever can swear loyalty to God in front of us, I'll make the decision to give him a star crystal. Those who are disrespectful to God have no right to receive a star crystal." After speaking, Tang Yu turned to Su Mingwe and asked for her opinion. Su Mingwe lightly nodded, indicating that she could accept Tang Yu's opinion. Unexpectedly, the 3 groups looked at each other and burst into laughter. "Ha! Idiots! Only Divine Sect disciples would be idiots like this. So you guys are from Divine Sect." Sigh. Thinking back to when we first entered the treetop area, there are also Divine Sect disciples, but how long could his faith last? When he was killed by insects, where was the God he believed in? Why didn't he come out to save him? You guys should save it. The martial artists in the stellar fruit tree only believe in themselves. You guys should go do what you're supposed to do. Otherwise, we'll join hands and get rid of you rookies first. That white-clothed girl can't leave. Heavens, I'm practically charmed to death by her. I've never seen someone so hot. If you guys help me take her down, I'd rather withdraw from this star crystal fight. TCH, I'm also willing to withdraw. I'll take this girl. The faces of the female martial artists behind Su Mingyue sunk. How dare you? You dare disrespect the saintess. Aren't you afraid of God's punishment? Io, a divine sect holy maiden too. That's great. This is the type of person I like. Where's God's punishment? Why hasn't lightning struck me yet? Ha! You stupid girls, don't even think about leaving today. The saintess is the boss. I'll use you guys as an appetizer. Su Mingwe slightly closed her eyes and didn't say anything. However, she was clearly angry. The first to lose, it was Tang Yu. Everyone could tell that he liked Su Mingwe. Hearing someone insult Su Mingwe, he couldn't maintain his composure anymore. Mingwe, let's do it. You guys go fight for the star crystals. I'll go take care of the one with the worst mouth. Be careful. Su Mingwe nodded. Tang Yu leaped up and a shuttle-shaped shield appeared under her feet. She dashed straight towards the person who spoke the worst of the 495th batch. Be careful. This guy is also a spirit reader. The people from the 495 were shocked. They didn't think that there would be such an expert in the 497 freshmen. They hastily went to fight. Tang Yu and the other 3 met. Originally, he wanted to take care of them easily. However, he didn't expect to meet such a strong challenge. There were 3 people on the other side. 2 of them wielded spears, while 1 wielded a pair of swords. The combined attack of the 3 of them actually sent the menacing Tang Yu flying. Ha! So that's all he has. He's really just a pretty boy with an embroidered pillow. Let's go and take care of him. The 3 people from the 495 rushed over. The 3 female warriors behind Su Mingwe also attacked at the same time. Including Tang Yu, it was 4 against 3. The 7 of them were in a mess. Seeing that they were fighting, the people from the 496 still wanted to snatch the star crystals. The 2 advanced warlords from the 494 shouted, "You stupid things. Let's work together to take care of the rookies from the 497 freshmen first. There are 3 star crystals here. We can split them equally. These girls can also be divided." The people from the 496 immediately stopped. They thought that this was indeed the best solution. They immediately turned around and charged towards Su Mingwe. There were 4 people from the 496. There were 2 advanced warlords and 2 intermediate warlords. They came to the stellar fruit tree 1 year earlier than Su Mingyue's group. Their strength wasn't much different. As the number 1 person in the advanced warlord group this year, Su Mingyue's strength was super strong. She wasn't afraid of the 4 people attacking her. She used the mystic steps and held the 3-foot-long sword. With a flip of her hand, she struck out 3 times with the speed of a thunderbolt. The 2 advanced warlords were actually forced back by this attack. One of the intermediate warlords was careless and couldn't block it. One of his arms flew into the sky. The warrior who lost his arm screamed and fell to the ground. Blood gushed out. There was no medical treatment here. Losing an arm was basically equivalent to being crippled. His only way out was to immediately bandage his wound and go to the Tree Heart Lake to find a platform. he would leave the fruit tree and become a normal person. This chick is so strong. The people from the 496 were shocked. They didn't dare to underestimate their opponent anymore. They immediately surrounded her and attacked. They cooperated with each other to restrain her. They hoped to take down Su Mingwei. After all, the other party had come a year earlier. The three of them together had extraordinary strength. Su Mingwei was immediately entangled in a fight. It was impossible to take down the opponent in a short time. However, if the three people from the 495 wanted to defeat Su Mingwei, it wasn't something they could do in a short time. When the two advanced warlords from the 494 saw this situation, they didn't go to help any of the people fighting. They immediately dashed towards the three stellar crystals. The people from the 495 and 496 realized that they had been tricked. They couldn't help but curse in unison. However, they were in the middle of a fight. No one could extricate themselves from it. They could only watch as their opponents went to pick the stellar crystals. Just as they approached the stellar crystals, two throwing knives suddenly flew towards them. The throwing knives appeared very suddenly. It was as if the other party had already prepared for it. The targets were the two people's throats. These two throwing knives weren't enough to injure them. However, they knew that once they dodged the throwing knives, the person hiding in the dark would very likely take away the stellar crystals at this time. These two advanced warlords were also amazing. They forcefully twisted in the air to dodge the throwing knives. Then, they reached out at the same time to grab the stellar crystals. However, at this time, something strange happened again. The three stellar crystals seemed to be attracted by something. With a whoosh, they flew out and disappeared behind the leaves in the blink of an eye. The two people were fast enough, but they each only grabbed a ball of air. Damn it, who did it in the dark? Chase. Chase in the direction of the stellar crystals. I don't believe that we can't find them. The other party is so sneaky. They definitely aren't strong. The two warlords' eyes instantly turned red. They immediately chased in the direction where the stellar crystals disappeared. On the other hand, Su Mingwei and the others who were still fighting couldn't stop at this moment. This was because a female warrior had been stabbed in the abdomen and had fallen. Su Mingwei had killed another intermediate warlord. The group of people were already in a chaotic battle. Whoever dared to retreat first would definitely be killed by the other party. Although they were gnashing their teeth in hatred for the person who stole the star crystal, they were powerless at this moment. At this time, a vague voice came from behind the leaves in the distance. "Idle, wait for me." Although the voice wasn't loud and most of the people present couldn't hear it, it still fell into Su Mingyue's ears. Vaguely, she seemed to have heard this sentence somewhere before. This voice was also a bit familiar. However, she couldn't remember it at the moment. However, it was definitely a student from the same batch as her. However, she was a person with strong self-esteem. She was fighting so hard. If other warriors didn't help her, it would be fine. However, there was a despicable student from the same batch who not only didn't help, but also secretly attacked her. If she found out who it was, she definitely wouldn't let them go. Looking at her severely injured companion lying on the ground, Su Mingyue's eyes were a bit red. She never swore, but she couldn't help but say, "Damn thief, I will definitely catch you." Chapter 137. At this time, Lin Jun really wanted to slap Zhang Yu to death. "You're so fat. You can even fall while running. If you fall, so be it. Why did you call me?" However, Lin Jun was not the kind of person who would abandon his companions at will. Helplessly, he pulled Zhang Yu and turned the hydraulic metal into a shield. They quickly passed through the bushes and disappeared into the depths of the dense forest. This was the advantage of a spirit reader. They could fly, but flying in the bushes was very dangerous. Not only could they not turn in time and hit a tree trunk, but they could also be killed by insects lurking in the dark. If it were not for the two advanced warlords chasing after them, Lin Jun would not be willing to take the risk to use this move. However, there was no other way now. He could only take the risk. Fortunately, they were lucky this time and did not encounter any insects. With Lin Jun's extraordinary performance, it was almost impossible to catch a telekinesis master in the dense forest. Finally, they managed to escape without any mishap. In the end, the two of them fell into a tree pit. Lin Jun found a leaf and let it fall freely. He controlled it with his spiritual power and covered the hole. This place was very hidden and basically would not be discovered by others. The two of them finally breathed a sigh of relief. Hee hee, idol, you're really my idol. You actually snatched food from the tiger's mouth and snatched all 3 star crystals. Following you is the wisest choice I've made in my life. Zhang Yu also knew that he had done something wrong. At this moment, he hurriedly flattered Lin Jun. Lin Jun let out a long breath. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be in such a sorry state. Yes, it's all my fault. Zhang Yu hurriedly nodded and admitted his mistake. But idol, I don't think it's a pity that Tang Yu died. However, that girl Su Mingwei is so beautiful. Wouldn't it be terrible if she fell into the hands of those beasts? Zhang Yu was still a little worried about Su Mingwei. After all, it was hard not to like such a fairy-like girl. Lin Jun gently shook his head. You don't have to worry. Among the 3 groups, the strongest were the 2 warlords who were chasing us. We lured them away to help Su Mingwei. Otherwise, Su Mingwei would be in big trouble. In this way, although Su Mingwei and the others will have a harder time, they should still be able to win. Oh, so his idol already had a card up his sleeve. What a brilliant plan. For me? Lin Jun handed a star core crystal to Zhang Yu, and he immediately shut his mouth. Take it well. The 2 of us urgently need to increase our strength right now. We can't always do this kind of shady business. Hurry up and absorb it. The more strength we have, the more insurance we have. Zhang Yu hurriedly nodded. He took the star core crystal and began to absorb it. Lin Jun still had 2 more star crystals. One of them was in the star core stage. The energy contained in this one was more than double that of the one Lin Jun had absorbed before. It was enough for him to break through to level 4 warlord in one fell swoop. The meteor crystal in his hand was even better. It had been in the meteor stage for more than a month. It could allow Lin Jun to take a big step forward on the path of level 4 beginner. Lin Jun didn't do anything else. He placed the 2 star crystals on his dantian and began to absorb them. Lin Jun had an extreme thirst for strength. Previously, he had felt fine outside. However, after entering the stellar fruit tree, he realized that everyone here was an elite warlord. They were all powerhouses among the warlords. Almost everyone here had done something like challenging someone of a higher level, especially those advanced warlords. Some of them could even challenge warlords above their level. This made Lin Jun feel somewhat powerless. There were also those old students who had stayed in the starfruit tree for several years. Each of them had abnormally strong combat power. Even if Lin Jun wanted to compete for the star crystals, he could only do it secretly. He couldn't go out and compete. He needed strength, stronger strength. If he wanted to seize the star crystals, he had to defeat his competitors. Using battle to nurture battle would not work without strength. He had already thought it through. After breaking through to an intermediate warlord, he would settle down for some time and cultivate his skills. He still had a long time in the starfruit tree, so he wasn't in a hurry. His dantian qi began to circulate. The 2 star crystals emitted wisps of white qi at the same time. They went deep into Lin Jun's skin and poured into his dantian. 5 minutes later, Lin Jun felt that the membrane that was preventing him from breaking through was about to be broken. The boundary of a beginner warlord was about to be opened. Break for me. A torrent of energy poured into his dantian with a loud bang. At this moment, the boundary of Lin Jun's dantian was expanding rapidly. There was only 1 level difference between a 3rd level warlord and a 4th level warlord, but there was an essential difference. This was the boundary between beginner and intermediate warlords. Whether it was upgrading from 2nd level to 3rd level or 4th level to 5th level, the increase in strength was not as great as upgrading from 3rd level to 4th level. The boundary of his dantian advanced with a rumble. Lin Jun's lower abdomen contracted and his aura started to collide at this moment. Under the infusion of external energy, the chi flow tumbled and rolled like a tide. This process lasted for a full 10 minutes. Lin Jun's dantian's expansion only stopped when the 2 star crystals were completely absorbed. Good, this is great. Lin Jun used his mind power to observe his dantian. He was pleasantly surprised to find that not only had he broken through to a 4th-level warlord, but he had also reached the peak of the beginner stage of the 4th level. This meteor crystal was indeed powerful. It was the best star crystal that a beginner warlord could consume. He reckoned that it wouldn't be long before he entered the comet stage. However, beginner warlords couldn't consume comet stage crystals. Lin Jun's breakthrough was imminent, so this meteor crystal had come at the right time. Previously, his Dantian Chi storage had been 100, but now it had reached 150. His strength had increased by a full 1/3. This is a little interesting. With this powerful Dantian Chi as the foundation, I can truly have a place in the starfruit tree. Of course, this strength is still not enough. At the very least, it's not suitable for me to wander around. I should find a place to properly cultivate my abilities. At this stage, if I want to improve my strength, besides cultivating my mind power, I should also cultivate the 4th level of my spear technique, Long River. Lin Jun had obtained Long River's secret manual for some time now, but he hadn't had the time to properly cultivate it. Now that he was in the starfruit tree, he had all the time in the world. After making up his mind, he opened his eyes. Gold and silver lights flickered in his eyes, causing Zhang Yu, who had been waiting beside him, to feel his heart palpitate. Idol, your strength has advanced by leaps and bounds. Just now, your mind power was uncontrollably overflowing. I reckon that the strength of your Dantian has already surpassed mine. Zhang Yu just broken through to a 4th-level warlord a few days ago, and had also just absorbed a star core crystal. However, his Dantian wasn't as large and strong as Lin Jun's. Lin Jun glanced at Zhang Yu and thought for a while before saying, Zhang Yu, I want to find a place to properly cultivate for a period of time. Do you want to come with me? When Zhang Yu heard Lin Jun's words, he immediately hesitated. Although it would be safer to follow Lin Jun, from what Lin Jun had said, this cultivation wouldn't take a day or two. Zhang Yu had a keen sense of smell. If he used this time to properly search for star crystals, wouldn't he be able to improve his strength even faster? However, he still couldn't make up his mind to leave Lin Jun. Lin Jun smiled and said, Don't hesitate. It's too boring for you to go out and cultivate with me. It's better for you to search for star crystals on your own. How about this? Let's part ways for now. In any case, this starfruit tree isn't so big that it's boundless. We'll meet again. Zhang Yu wasn't a wishy-washy person. When he heard Lin Jun's advice, he knew that this would be beneficial for both of them. He smiled and said, Idle, then I'll wander around outside. When you've reached the great success stage, we'll come out and roam the world together. Okay, it's a deal. It's a deal. Without saying too much, the two of them chose to part ways here. After Zhang Yu left, Lin Jun had already thought of a place to go. He wanted to find a water source. If he wanted to cultivate the Long River spear art, he needed to find a river. A place with water would be more conducive to the comprehension of the spear art. If there was a place with the most water in the entire starfruit tree, it would undoubtedly be Treeheart Lake. However, Treeheart Lake was the center of the entire starfruit tree. People would often go there, which was unfavorable for cultivation. Moreover, Treeheart Lake was a lake, not a river. It was also inconsistent with the concept of the Long River spear art. There was also a river above the starfruit tree. Although it was impossible for there to be a large river, the dew from a few days ago reminded Lin Jun that as long as he found a place with plenty of dew, as long as there was a thick tree trunk, the water would naturally flow downwards and form a river. After all, the starfruit tree was so large that it could absorb a lot of water. If there wasn't a river, there wouldn't be a lake as large as Treeheart Lake that didn't dry up for a long time. Although Lin Jun didn't plan to cultivate in Treeheart Lake, he still wanted to go there and find a river that flowed into Treeheart Lake. Then, he would walk along the river and find a suitable place for cultivation. After leaving Zhang Yu, Lin Jun set off alone. He began to walk down the tree trunk in search of Treeheart Lake. Because he had a clear goal, he walked for 2 days. On the morning of the 3rd day, Lin Jun finally saw Treeheart Lake. Walking out from between the branches and leaves, he saw a vast expanse of mist in front of him. Above the 10-mile-long lake, there were tree leaves that covered the sky. The scene here was truly a wonder of the world. Looking left and right to make sure there was no one around. Lin Jun walked out from the thicket and carefully observed the situation of Tree Heart Lake. After careful observation, Lin Jun found that there were about 6 or 7 rivers that flowed into Tree Heart Lake. The water in the lake seeped into the tree trunk every day. Without the constant flow of water from upstream, the lake would have dried up long ago. Among these 6 or 7 rivers, there was a river in the north that seemed to have the largest flow. This was because the south was facing the sun, and the east and west sides were also exposed to the sun. Due to the evaporation of the river, the north side wasn't exposed to the sun. Naturally, the water in the river was larger. I'll just follow the river north and find a secluded place to cultivate my long river spear art. Lin Jun made up his mind and started walking north. As he walked, he found that the north side was actually closer to the platform area. However, Lin Jun didn't care about it. There shouldn't be anyone on the platform, so he shouldn't encounter anyone. But just as he was about to lower his head and enter the thicket, a gentle female voice suddenly came from behind him. The voice was clear and pleasant, like pearls falling on a jade plate. One could imagine that the owner was a beautiful woman. Chapter 138. Originally, hearing such a beautiful voice in this desolate forest would be an enjoyable thing, but Lin Jun suddenly felt his scalp tighten. Fiercely turning his head, as expected, Su Mingyue was standing not far away, wearing a white robe. Her face was cold as she looked at Lin Jun. Lin Jun didn't need to pay attention to normal students, but Su Mingyue was different. It wasn't because Su Mingyue was a super beauty, nor was it because she was the divine sex holy maiden, respected by tens of thousands of people. It was because of Su Mingyue's bravery in his previous life. At that time, Lin Jun had personally seen Su Mingyue die in battle for the people of Earth, but he didn't have the courage to save her. Although he didn't have the corresponding strength at that time, there was still a trace of guilt in his heart. Su Mingyue was without a doubt a good girl. She was beautiful and had a sense of justice. However, she was currently brainwashed by religion, so Lin Jun couldn't do anything to her. Moreover, the current Lin Jun really wasn't Su Mingyue's opponent. For Su Mingyue to be able to say, "Idol, where are you going?" meant that she had heard Zhang Yu's call that day and knew who he was. Lin Jun cursed Zhang Yu in his heart. He really knew how to find trouble for himself, but he had to deal with Su Mingyue first. What a coincidence. Holy Maiden Su is also here. And sometimes there are coincidences in this world. Su Mingyue indifferently replied. Lin Jun sternly said, "Although I'm very happy to meet Holy Maiden Su, this is the wilderness. After all, there are differences between men and women. If we stay together, I'm afraid people will gossip. I'll leave first." Su Mingyue's expression was calm. "I'm the divine sex Holy Maiden. Everyone in the world is God's people. We should be together. What gossip? Idol, you're thinking too much." Lin Jun's mouth twitched. "Although I think I'm handsome, I've never been a star. Especially in Beijing, I'm not famous. Holy Maiden Su, it's better if you don't call me idol. I really don't deserve it. We're all students of the same year. If others can call you that, can't I?" Su Mingyue looked down at Lin Jun from her vantage point. She could clearly see the embarrassment on his face. She felt a tinge of pleasure in her heart. This damned thief. She should have teased him properly. "If you really want to call me idol, I can't keep you company." As he spoke, Lin turned to leave. Su Mingyue spoke again. "Idol, why are you in such a hurry to leave? I know a place with 3-star crystals. Don't you want to go and see if you have a chance?" Well, I don't have time right now. Since you found it, it's yours. I won't fight for it. Since you know this, why did you try to steal it in the first place?" "Lin Jun, to think that I thought you were a genius. Have you never read the teachings of the gods? First, you disrespected God. Then, you ignored the plight of your classmates and only focused on stealing the star crystals. Do you know why I'm here on the platform?" Lin Jun shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. Xiao Wei, Xiao Yu, the two of them were seriously injured in the battle. They can no longer continue exploring. They can only return to the platform and choose to withdraw. It wasn't easy for them to join the training camp. If they withdraw like this, they can only be ordinary people. I'm here to send them away. Is that so? That's a pity. Lin Jun smacked his lips. He looked left and right, looking for a place to quickly escape. Su Mingwe was a bit excited, but she quickly calmed down. She took a deep breath and said, I want to save you. Join the divine sect. Join the divine sect? Lin Jun was stunned. That's right. Join the divine sect. Otherwise, with your temperament, you'll cause trouble sooner or later. But you're a rare talent. After all, not everyone can steal the star crystals in that situation. But you did it. I told you before that I'll save you. Now it's time for me to fulfill my promise. Su Mingwe said seriously. She was indifferent by nature. No matter what she said or did, she wouldn't be excited. Lin Jun thought for a moment and said, Divine sect. Oh, I know. It's that religion that says Amitabha before you do something. Su Mingwe's watery peach blossom eyes carried a trace of anger. How can you be so ignorant? You're talking about the Buddhism of the Gong Yuan era. Don't you know anything about the teachings of the starry sky, true God? It's like this. As she spoke, Su Mingwe closed her eyes. One of her hands covered her towering chest. She opened her mouth and said, I can live under the starry sky. I can bathe in the night. My soul. After saying more than 10 sentences, Su Mingwe finished the opening speech of the divine sect believers. She opened her eyes and said, It's like this. In the future, you damn thief. When she opened her eyes, she saw the corner of Lin Jun's clothes disappear into the depths of the tree. This brat didn't listen to what she said at all. Instead, he deliberately tricked her into reading the opening speech. This was because the opening speech of the divine sect required one to be read with their eyes closed. Moreover, he was a spirit reader master. He could silently start and quietly leave. You want to leave? Not so easy. Let's see how far you can go. Su Mingwe had been the saintess since she was young. She had always been respected by others. When had she ever met someone like Lin Jun who didn't give her, the saintess, any face? Even though she already felt that it was very difficult and took the initiative to ask to save Lin Jun, not only did he not appreciate it, he even made a fool out of her, the saintess. A rare expression of anger appeared on her face. She didn't even care that Tang Yu was still waiting for her to return. At this moment, she just wanted to catch Lin Jun and teach him a lesson. She wanted to let this disrespectful guy know that the gods didn't only have God's grace to save the world. Towards blasphemers, there was also God's might to punish you. However, the trees were deep and dense. Lin Jun still managed to run far away. It was very difficult for Su Mingwe to chase after him. However, she still stepped on the flying shuttle and chased after him with her sword. She believed that as long as she didn't give up, she would definitely find Lin Jun. Retreating at this level of difficulty wasn't her divine sect saintess character. Lin Jun shook off Su Mingwe and ran. Then, he turned a corner and purposely left a few traces along the way. Then, he quietly returned to the river and followed it upstream. This was a huge tree trunk. Its width was even wider than the Yangtze River. In the middle of the tree trunk, there was a river that gathered rainwater and dew as it meandered down the tree. The river was 10 meters wide, and the current was rapid. Occasionally, it would cause waves to splash against the shore. Yes, this river isn't bad. Moreover, the depth is quite suitable. As long as I follow this path, I'll definitely find a hidden spot. After following the river for about 3 hours, Lin Jun finally found a suitable place. Above the river, there was a fork in the trees. Water flowed down from above into the river and formed a waterfall. The branches below the waterfall were very steep. The river water was turbulent. It was here that the amount of water in the river started to increase. Behind the branches, there was a gentle slope that formed a small pool. It was about 30 to 40 meters in diameter. The water was incomparably clear. Moreover, it was rare that there weren't any insects here. Below the pool was a river that flowed downwards. Previously, there were countless branches and leaves there, making it very difficult to approach. If it wasn't for Lin Jun looking for water, he wouldn't have found this pool. Good. There's a waterfall, a river, and a pool. This is the place. Lin Jun decided to settle down here. Looking around, he found that there was an open area by the pool that was suitable for living. However, Lin Jun didn't plan on building a thatched cottage. that would just provide a target for other martial artists. After finding a hole in the open area, Lin Jun found some flower petals and laid them down. He repeatedly laid down several layers until he felt comfortable enough. After making a simple nest, it was already nighttime. Lin Jun rested here. Lying in the nest and looking up, Lin Jun was surprised to find that he could see the sky through the cracks. Although he could only see a small part of the sky, this was the first time Lin Jun had seen the sky since he came to the stellar fruit tree. It was late at night, and the night was cold. A crescent moon appeared in the sky. The crescent moon was like a hook, faintly discernible in Lin Jun's line of sight. This is really a good place. If only I could find more star crystals here. Unfortunately, my nose isn't as sensitive as Zhang Yu's. There's no way to leave the stellar fruit tree for now. I wonder how things are going back home. Lin Jun thought for a while and suddenly thought of a problem. Calculating the time, there were still 4 to 5 days until the new year. It had been a few months since his reincarnation, and the new year was about to arrive. In his previous life, he had no one to accompany him for the new year. That was because it was very difficult for him to meet people from Earth in the universe. After the Great Migration era, people from Earth had left the solar system. Many of their customs had become similar to those of other races in the universe. On the contrary, the customs of Earth had been gradually forgotten. Moreover, even if he met people from Earth, they might not necessarily be Chinese. Apart from the Chinese on Earth, no one would celebrate the New Year. Later on, Lin Jun had almost forgotten that there was such a festival. I'll forget about the New Year this time. When things are more stable in the future, I'll try to spend every New Year with my family. After resting for a while, Lin Jun stood up and walked to the edge of the pool. Bending down, he scooped up a handful of water. The water was very cold, but it was nothing to a martial artist. If I want to cultivate the long river spear art, the first thing I need to do is to grasp the profound meaning of the river water. Look at this water. It surges for a long time without stopping. As soon as one wave passed, the next wave would immediately follow. If this wave was used in a real battle, it would definitely be difficult for the enemy to withstand. Whoever grasps this profound meaning will be the king of protracted battles. Once the attack is unleashed, no matter who the opponent is, they will eventually be defeated by this endless stream of attacks. This is the long river. First, let me feel the power of the river's waves. Chapter 139. After entering the river, the water reached Lin Jun's chest. Before Lin Jun could stand firm, the waves from the waterfall came crashing over. Lin Jun didn't care too much about it. A mere wave like this couldn't crush him. He stuck out his chest and braced himself against the incoming waves. However, he had neglected one point. The riverbed wasn't made of mud, but smooth trees. When the waves hit him, he lost his balance and fell, choking on several mouthfuls of water. Cough, cough, cough. Lin Jun stood up in a sorry state and wiped the water from his face with his hand. My lower body is still a little unstable. When I was learning spear arts from Zhang Guanyue, he once told me that if you don't train your waist, your skills won't be high. A stable lower body is the most important thing for a martial artist. My immovable mountain is already pretty good, but it's still on flat ground. When it comes to this slippery riverbed, it's not so effective. Just nice. Not only can I feel the power of the river here, but it also allows me to properly train my lower body. It allows me to be as immovable as a mountain in any environment. Another wave came crashing over. This time, Lin Jun straightened his horse stance and braced himself against it. Boom! The power of the river came crashing over. His feet slipped uncontrollably and he fell into the river again. However, this time, Lin Jun was prepared and didn't choke on the water. 2 seconds later, Lin Jun got up again. He was unconvinced as he welcomed the arrival of the third wave. The result was the same. He was clearly prepared, but he couldn't stop himself from slipping and falling into the river for the third time. Lin Jun didn't stand in the river for the fourth time. Instead, he climbed to the shore and thought carefully. Something's not right. Although I've already prepared myself and stood in a horse stance when the river water came, when the wave came, I couldn't help but instinctively shift my attention to the river water. In my heart, I still felt some fear towards the wave. This way, I won't be able to concentrate. The result of not being able to concentrate is that my feet will relax, causing me to slip and fall. If I can't overcome my fear of the river, then no matter how many times I fall, the result will be the same. Lin Jun found the crux of the problem. He sat cross-legged on the shore and rested, adjusting his state to the final state. After about half an hour, Lin Jun opened his eyes. He felt better than ever and entered the river again. The wave came again, and Lin Jun met it head-on. However, he still couldn't help but slip. This time, he stumbled a few steps back but didn't fall. No, it's still hard to avoid fear. This difficulty is not easy to overcome. This is a human's instinctive reaction. It's not something that can be changed by one's will. Once again, the result was even worse than the previous time. Lin Jun fell down again. After 7 or 8 times, Lin Jun was knocked down by the wave again. He simply lay in the river and didn't come out. His eyes were open. The river surged in front of him, and his body floated with the current. Lin Jun threw all of this to the back of his mind. He held his breath and let his body float. Lin Jun, you've been reborn. Didn't you think you were fearless? Why can't you dodge a mere wave? This thing can't kill or injure you. At most, it'll make you tumble. What are you afraid of? Afraid of choking on water? No, there's nothing to be afraid of. Afraid of falling? That's not it either. Just get up after falling. I understand now. Your fear doesn't come from your body, but from your heart. Because you're still a normal person. You know that the river water is coming, so you instinctively resist it. Don't you know that if you resist the river water once, you can resist it 100 times? Even if you're a god, if you let him stand here for countless years, there will be a day when he will be knocked down by the river. That's because the river is endless. This is the principle that dripping water can penetrate stone. My focus shouldn't be on the river, but on my feet. As long as I believe that I'm a mountain peak, then no matter how turbulent the river is, it can only flow around the mountain peak. It can't do anything to the mountain peak. I'm a mountain. I don't need to rely on spear techniques or fancy moves, because my body is a mountain peak that will never collapse. Lin Jun felt suffocated when he thought of this. He had been lying in the river for 10 minutes. With a stomp on the riverbed, Lin Jun leaped out of the river and returned to the front of the river with a few large strides. The waterfall in front of him surged, stirring up waves that were a few feet high. They came crashing down on Lin Jun. This force was the force of nature. Coupled with the slippery riverbed below, very few people could resist it. Lin Jun would instinctively close his eyes when facing the river. But this time, he didn't close his eyes at all. He just watched the waves come crashing down on him. Exerting force on his feet, he remained as immovable as a mountain. Rumble. The waves came crashing down, and then the white waves flowed downstream. After the waves passed, Lin Jun's body was still as straight as a javelin. He still stood there, motionless. Waha! I did it. This is the body of a mountain. This is the body of a mountain. This is the second level of being as immovable as a mountain that Zhang Guanyue told me about. As long as your body is like a mountain, nothing can shake you. When this concept is used in battle, as long as the opponent's strength is too much higher than mine, just this concept alone will make the opponent's confidence collapse involuntarily. They will have the feeling that they can't defeat me. I can achieve this without using a spear. Haha, success, ugh. Another wave came crashing down. Lin Jun, who couldn't help but feel agitated, tumbled and fell into the river. However, this time, Lin Jun stood up quickly. He chose to stand on the slippery riverbed. No matter how the waves surged, they couldn't do anything to him. After dozens of attempts, Lin Jun finally fully comprehended the concept of the body of a mountain. The biggest benefit of this concept for Lin Jun was that it eliminated his fear. No matter what kind of difficulties and obstacles he faced in the future, he would be able to calmly deal with them. After returning to the shore and resting for a while, he looked up and saw that the sky was actually a little bright. The harvest of this night was huge. Although it was very tiring, it allowed Lin Jun's strength to increase by a large margin. Lin Jun didn't continue to enter the water to try cultivating the river. The road had to be walked step by step, and the rice had to be eaten mouthful by mouthful. He was very clear about the principle of fighting steadily and surely. After eating a bit of beef jerky in the morning with difficulty, Lin Jun's desire for food increased day by day. After eating and resting for a while, Lin Jun decided to explore the surroundings. This place was deserted. Perhaps there was a star crystal hidden somewhere. The less people there were, the more likely there was a star crystal. Moreover, the quality of the star crystal might be higher. After putting on his clothes, Lin Jun picked up the bright silver spear and began to explore the surroundings. This place was located in the north of the treetop area of the star fruit tree. Lin Jun first walked north. After walking for about 4 hours, he found that he was gradually approaching the edge of the treetop area. After arriving here, Lin Jun didn't continue forward. If he continued forward, he would encounter the corrosive leaves at the edge of the treetop area. Lin Jun didn't want to rot here. Going back the same way he came, he continued to head west. After walking for more than an hour, he didn't find anything. Lin Jun once again went back the same way and began to head east. This time, Lin Jun's hard work finally paid off. He found that less than 500 meters away from his small nest, there were actually flowers blooming on a tall and hidden branch. Moreover, it wasn't just one flower, but 3 flowers. This is really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. It turns out that the star crystal was near my nest. I actually took so many unnecessary detours. Lin Jun happily climbed up the branch and saw the 3 blooming flowers. After seeing them, Lin Jun was immediately attracted. Among the 3 flowers, the star crystal on the left had a long tail that floated up and down. It was actually a star crystal that had entered the meteor stage. The one on the right was also a meteor crystal. Moreover, it looked much bigger than the one on the left. It seemed like it was about to break through to the comet stage. However, these weren't what made him the happiest. What made him the most excited was the flower in the middle. The meteor on this flower had already changed. It became bigger and brighter, dyeing the surrounding trees with a layer of silver light. The tail was also clearly brighter. This was actually a comet stage star crystal. When martial artists consumed star crystals, the star crystals of the core stage and the meteor stage were used for beginner warlords. The effects were also the best. If a beginner warlord consumed a comet stage star crystal, their dantian might not be able to withstand it. Even if they were stronger and could withstand it, the effects would be greatly reduced. The most suitable star crystals for intermediate warlords were comet stage and satellite stage star crystals. If they consumed comet stage and core stage star crystals, the effects wouldn't be very obvious and would be reduced. This was because the star cores of those 2 stages were no longer enough to supply the dantian of an intermediate warlord. Lin Jun was currently in the beginner stage of a 4th grade warlord, so it was time for him to consume comet stage star crystals. Although the meteor stage star crystals were still somewhat useful to Lin Jun, they weren't very useful anymore. Yes, among these 3 star crystals, I should consume this comet stage one immediately. Although I can use these 2 meteor stage ones, I still feel that it's a pity. Lin Jun looked left and right. He felt that it wouldn't be easy for people to come here. Finally, he made a difficult decision. He gently plucked the comet stage star crystal and decided to keep the 2 meteor stage ones for the time being. He would come back to pluck them when they entered the comet stage. The one on the right seemed like it would break through to the comet stage in a few days. Lin Jun would be wasting a heavenly treasure if he absorbed it now. After straightening the surrounding leaves to cover the remaining 2 star crystals, Lin Jun quickly returned with the comet stage star crystal. Chapter 140. After bringing the comet crystal back to his nest, Lin Jun hurriedly crawled in and covered himself with leaves. Then he took out the comet crystal. The comet crystal with its long tail looked dazzling and gorgeous. Lin Jun could feel the energy contained in it as he held it in his hand. I've just broken through to the beginner level of 4th grade warlord. Logically speaking, I should slowly absorb the comet crystal. However, time waits for no one. It's safer to absorb this thing into my stomach as soon as possible. Lin Jun took the comet crystal and placed it on his lower abdomen in his dantian. As a powerful energy poured into it, Lin Jun's dantian began to expand crazily once again. This time, the cultivation lasted for a full 30 minutes before the comet crystal was completely absorbed. No matter what kind of star crystal was absorbed, the first time would always have the best effect. After Lin Jun absorbed the comet crystal, his dantian's chi rose from the peak of the beginner level to the intermediate level. Although it didn't reach the peak, it still made great progress. What a powerful energy! In just a few days, I've advanced from the peak of the 3rd grade to the intermediate level of the 4th grade. This stellar fruit tree is indeed a holy land for cultivation. However, this is only because it's my first time absorbing the comet crystal. I'm afraid that the effect won't be as good in the future. According to the survival manual, the effect of absorbing the same star crystal will get worse and worse. Moreover, the higher the level, the more energy is needed to advance. If I want to advance to the late level of the 4th grade, I'm afraid that I'll need 7 or 8 comet crystals. If I want to advance to the 5th grade, I'll need at least 20 to 30 comet crystals. As for the 6th grade, I'm afraid that only the satellite crystal will be effective. Fortunately, I still have time. After absorbing the comet crystal, Lin Jun stood up with satisfaction, thinking that there were still 2 comet crystals that were about to ripen waiting for him. He felt a burst of joy. Seeing that it was almost night, Lin Jun ate some compressed biscuits and went to the riverside again. Yesterday, I comprehended the concept of body like a mountain, which means that I can freely practice my spear in the river. Today, I'll cultivate the winding river. This isn't an ordinary winding river. It's Lin Jun's unique skill, winding river of lightning. After taking off his clothes, Lin Jun entered the water again. The ice-cold river water shook his spirit. Holding the bright silver spear in his hand, Lin Jun remained motionless despite the impact of the waves. According to the Endless River Secret Manual that I've seen, if you want to make the spear flow like a river, the first thing you need to do is to make the spear move like a wave. It's not that easy to attack with the spear like a wave. For example, the wave in front of me. If I use the waterfall, I can completely cancel out this wave, but when the next wave comes, I will be exhausted. The profound meaning of the waterfall is a one-time attack, while the wave is actually to make the power of the waterfall continuous. Let me try it now. Lin Jun stood still, waiting for the next wave to come. With a shake of the spear in his hand, a waterfall appeared. Streaks of golden lightning flashed in the night sky. On one side, it was a surging river. On the other side, it was a man-made waterfall. On the other side, it was like a huge wave. Bang! Like a firework explosion, waves splashed everywhere. This wave didn't come down at all, and the water made the shore wet. The river had lost the supply of the following wave, and for a moment, the flow was cut off. If one stood on the shore and looked, they would see that the river behind Lin Jun had sunk down. This was caused by the following wave not being able to catch up, but the waves were endless. Lin Jun had used the waterfall to resist the first wave, but the next wave came immediately. Lin Jun wouldn't be able to use the second waterfall for a short period of time. He lifted his spear and tried to use it, but it didn't have the same effect as the first time. The wave crashed down. Although Lin Jun didn't fall down, he became a drowned rat. The splashing water made him look extremely distressed. Sure enough, the situation is as I expected. I can't use the waterfall continuously, so I can't resist the waves. The real long river is like a surging river. If I use it continuously, I can even stop the flow of the river. How can I do this? According to the secret book's step-by-step training, I might need to cultivate for a year or so. I obviously don't have that much time to waste, so I can only speed it up. After a while, Lin Jun used the waterfall again, but the second time, he was still hit by the wave. He couldn't stop the flow of the river. After repeating this more than a dozen times, Lin Jun was so tired that he rested on the shore for a while. It's still not enough. I haven't grasped the essence. What's wrong? After thinking for a while, Lin Jun still couldn't figure it out. He simply put down this thought burden for the time being. His mind was filled with wild fantasies. Past life, present life, Family, friends, enemies, dreams, pursuits, everything flashed through Lin Jun's mind like a movie. I want to earn $40 billion so that my parents can have the ability to cultivate again. In the future, even if I have to use a lot of resources, I want them to live a stable life. This way, I won't be lonely in the future. In my past life, I experienced a lot of things and had a plan in mind. This time, I can't stay in the divine general training camp for too long. I can't stay for more than 5 years or even 4 years. I still remember that in my past life, Bingcheng Bay City fell and was occupied by mutant beasts. That was a catastrophe for mankind. Countless people died in that battle, and only a few capable people escaped. So I have to rush back before that and do my best to prevent Bingcheng from falling. At least, I have to save more people. I'm not some saint who bemoans the state of the universe and the fate of mankind, but I know how helpless the people of Earth were when the extraterrestrial civilization descended. In this life, I want to pursue the pinnacle. The lineage of Earth must also exist in this starry sky and be respected by others. Those experts and geniuses of the extraterrestrial civilization, if you want to come to Earth and do whatever you want, you'll have to ask me, Lin Jun, for permission. Those who once fought and died for Earth, you are all heroes. I will do my best to let you live. Before that, I will send all those who stand in my way to the peak to hell, regardless of whether you're a good person or a bad person. At this time, Lin Jun thought of Su Mingwei, the saintess who gave him a headache. It would not be easy to let her see the true face of the so-called true god of starry sky. There was also a Ning. And Ning's family did not approve of him and in Ning's relationship. Lin Jun had to go back and settle it. Thinking of Ning's kindness to him and her gentleness, Lin Jun couldn't help but smile. Like a thunderbolt in the night sky, this word flashed through Lin Jun's mind. He seemed to have grasped something important. Water. What am I thinking? I'm just missing something. What is water? Lin Jun stood up abruptly and looked at the river with his head lowered. Thousands of thoughts were running through his mind. Water is the source of life. Whether it's humans, mutated beasts, or even insects, they can't live without it. Water is formed drop by drop. Whether it's a river, a lake, or an ocean, they're all made up of tiny water droplets. Water can be flowing or still. It can bring life or take it away. It can carry a boat or overturn a ship. It's temperamental. Ocean currents bring about changes in the climate. Water nourishes the earth. Water is... I understand now. Lin Jun suddenly looked up at the sky, and his eyes flashed. Water is water. If you want to be like a real wave, you have to understand the characteristics of water. If you want to be like a drop of water, you can float and sink at will or go with the flow. Only when you understand water can you transform into water and make your attacks endless, just like the Milky Way hanging upside down. When he thought of this, Lin Jun took a deep breath and pulled out the bright silver spear. Like a diver in the Christian calendar, he plunged into the rolling water. The bright silver spear was very heavy. It directly sank Lin Jun to the bottom of the river. Lin Jun's body lay on the riverbed and let the water flow past him. Gold and silver light flashed in his eyes. Through the moonlight, Lin Jun saw the shadows of the trees on the riverbank twisting. He saw the crescent moon in the sky between the gaps of the trees. He could even count the white bubbles in the river. He could faintly feel the wind and clearly feel the direction of the water flow. He gradually loosened his hand and let the bright silver spear fall from his hand. His body began to float and sink with the waves. Gradually, his arms swayed gently. Unknowingly, he found the rhythm of the water flow. He slid, but did not create any ripples. He stopped breathing, and the Dantian Qi in his body began to circulate slowly. This was an ability that only warlord-level martial artists had. They could hold their breath underwater. I am now the water flow. The water will not harm me. The water and I have merged into one. I will go with the flow without hitting anything. His body floated with the water flow smoothly. When he passed by a bend in the trees, he slid past them lightly without making any contact with the trees. Since ancient times, water has flowed downwards. I can now feel the changes in the water flow. I can even feel the existence of water molecules. My body is nimbly swimming in the water flow, but I don't need to use the slightest bit of strength. This is the power of going with the flow. This is called going with the flow. Whether it is the waves or the waves, they all move with the flow of the water. Right now, I am the water. I am the flow of the water. I am the waves. I am the huge waves of the Milky Way that sweep through the sky. Lin Jun, who had been lurking in the water for more than 20 minutes, suddenly opened his eyes. His hands pushed against the riverbed, and he quickly slid to the bright silver spear. He grabbed the bright silver spear and rushed out of the water. The spear in his hand trembled and a storm howled. The spear's shadow was like a huge wave as it fiercely attacked the rushing waves. Boom! In a splashing of water, the first wave was defeated and the second wave came crashing down. Again, Lin Jun roared. His muscles exerted force, and lightning illuminated the night sky. The second spear was brazenly launched. Rumble. Chapter 141. After 2 consecutive successful strikes, Lin Jun immediately entered a state of mind. Spear after spear, he began to attack the incoming waves. As the waves crashed down, his spear met them head-on. Every strike was like a waterfall, continuous and unending. This was the winding river. Rumbling sound could be heard incessantly. After 30 consecutive strikes, the river behind Lin Jun was already close to drying up. The trees on the riverbed were beginning to show, and the shore was already a swamp. That was the accumulation of the splashing waves. Swish! Lin Jun withdrew his spear and stood upright. Only then did the lock torrent was released and once again poured into the riverbed. The water level of the river slowly recovered. Lin Jun's chest heaved up and down, but his eyes were flashing with an excited radiance. I finally succeeded. I finally grasped the profound meaning of the winding river. The only thing I'm lacking now is practice. I can only attack for 30 times at the moment. I'm still not too familiar with the usage of Dantian Qi and the way my muscles exert force. If I want to truly use it in a real battle, I need to be able to continuously attack for 1,000 times. Fortunately, I don't have anything else to do right now. I'll stay here and properly familiarize myself with the winding river spear art. It won't be too late to leave after this ability is formed. Every strike is like a waterfall. With this kind of attack strength, even an ordinary war god would not be able to continuously attack for 1,000 times. This winding river's profound meaning is truly mystical. The training this time had caused Lin Jun's Dantian Qi to be close to drying up. He was still not too familiar with the usage of force and had wasted too much of his Dantian Qi. The true winding river was endless and would never stop. Currently, he had only grasped the essentials, but the details were not perfect. He needed time to slowly train. After returning to his little nest and meditating to recover, Lin Jun fell asleep for the first time due to exhaustion. At the lower reaches of the river, Su Mingyue squatted by the riverside and gently combed her long hair while facing the river. As a girl, especially a girl who had reached a certain degree of beauty, Su Mingyue also cared a lot about her appearance. She could not stand being dirty from head to toe. After arriving at the stellar fruit tree, she had not bathed for a few days. Su Mingyue could not stand it anymore. Every part of the river here had mutated insects. Wanting to take a bath was almost an impossible task. When Su Mingyue sent her companions away from the fruit tree, she wanted to give up and leave. However, she persevered and then met Lin Jun. In the process of chasing Lin Jun, Su Mingyue had lost track of Lin Jun. But she did not give up. Instead, she continued to slowly to the north. This was because when she first saw Lin, she discovered that Lin was heading north. After walking for a while, she discovered this river. This discovery made Su Mingyue wild with joy. This was because it was rare to see mutated insects in this turbulent river. The rapid flow of the river made it difficult for the insects to gain a foothold. She kept moving forward and finally found a relatively secluded place. Taking advantage of the night, she took a bath. However, in the process of taking a bath, something happened that made Su Mingyue very embarrassed. The originally flowing river suddenly stopped for some reason. The sudden stop of the flow of the river caught everyone off guard. The sudden stop of the flow of the river exposed Su Mingyue's beautiful body to the air. Her beautiful saintess peak gently trembled. Her long hair was like a waterfall. Her red lips and starry eyes were protruding in all the right places. Her flawless jade body was very conspicuous in the dark night. Su Mingyue cried out in surprise. She wanted to squat down, but she found that it was useless. She wanted to chase after the flow of the river, but her clothes were still on the shore. Fortunately, the surroundings were completely silent. There was no one around. Su Mingyue panicked and ran to the shore to put on her clothes. Although no one saw it, the saintess, who had been disciplined since she was young and believed in the gods, still blushed. After a full 3 minutes, the stopped flow of the river resumed. Su Mingyue was also sure that no one saw her. Only then did she relax. There were many things in her space ring. Other than the things that martial artists needed, there were also many daily necessities. After washing up, the sky was already bright. Su Mingyue faced the river and gently combed her long hair. Looking at the reflection of the Luo river goddess in the river, Su Mingyue pondered in her heart why the flow of the river suddenly stopped. Fortunately, it was night. If it was daytime, she would not be able to forgive herself even if she died. A huge leaf spun in the air and fell down. It was inserted more than 10 centimeters into the river and was then washed away by the current. When the leaf fell, Su Mingyue saw a small depression in the river. That was because the leaf had blocked the flow of the river. The leaf blocked the flow of the river. Su Mingyue muttered. Then, she suddenly raised her head and her eyes lit up. Upstream. There's something or someone upstream. Although I don't know how they did it, it's very likely that person blocked the flow of the river. There aren't many martial artists heading north, and Lin Jun is heading in this direction. This means that if I follow this river, I'll definitely find that despicable thief. Su Mingyue stood up. There was a rare trace of joy in her beautiful eyes. Thief, if you did this again, we'll have to settle the score. She was wearing a long white dress with a golden ribbon around her waist, outlining her beautiful figure. It was a bit similar to the ancient costumes before the Christian calendar. It was not a retro style she wanted, but a standard long dress for female followers of the Starry Sky sect. Of course, as a saintess, her bearing was also important. Her long dress looked more elegant and graceful. Su Mingyue lifted the hem of her dress lightly, revealing her white and translucent calves. She floated away and went straight upstream. Tang Yu and a girl were walking in the forest, approaching Shuxin Lake. They were looking for Su Mingyue. The girl's name was Ying, and she was also from the capital Bay City. Like Su Mingyue, she came from the Church of Divine Grace. Su Mingyue had sent 2 of her companions to the platform and hadn't returned. They waited for a long time, but to no avail, so they came to look for her. Before Su Mingyue left, she told Ying that if she didn't come back, she could go to Shuxin Lake to look for her. She would leave a unique mark of the Church of Divine Grace in the direction she went. While walking, they suddenly heard voices behind them. Huh, who do we see? Aren't they the newbies? Tang Yu and Ying turned around and saw 2 advanced warlords standing behind them. They had seen these 2 people before. They were the 2 advanced warlords of the 494th class. When they were fighting for the Star Crystal, it was taken by someone else. The 2 of them chased after it. They didn't expect to see them here again. Tang Yu said coldly, "What do you want?" The 2 advanced warlords smiled like a cat playing with a mouse. One of them said, "If you don't have the ability to be a hero, don't force yourself. Where's the beauty in white with you?" Ying continued, "What are you looking for Mingyue for?" "Huh, nothing much. This forest is lonely. We brothers have been holding back for 3 years and want to find that beauty to vent our desires. Can't we? Shameless." Tang Yu heard these 2 people insulting his dream girl and was instantly furious. He waved his sleeves and stabbed out with his long sword. At the same time, 7 throwing knives rose into the air. He attacked with all his strength. The 2 advanced warlords used a knife and a spear as their weapons. They attacked at the same time and fought with Tang Yu. Ying also joined the battle. The 4 people fought for less than 3 minutes before Ying was kicked away by one of them. Facing the 2 of them working together, Tang Yu was soon unable to resist, which made him incomparably shocked. The students who were 3 years older than him were too strong. He was an 8th level warlord and a spirit reader in the middle stage of gold. It was hard to imagine that he wasn't a match for these two people. He was no match for Tang Yu. Tang Yu was defeated in less than a minute. Ying Ying's injuries weren't serious, and she stood up. Tang Yu ran over and grabbed her hand. "Let's go." Tang Yu stepped on a wide sword and flew with Ying Ying. One of the two people behind them was also a spirit reader in the late stage of gold. He also chased after them on a shield. Tang Yu was almost running for his life. He purposely looked for places that were difficult to pass through. This tactic was effective. After a minute, they finally shook off their pursuers. However, Tang Yu still didn't dare to stop. He brought Ying Ying straight to Tree Heart Lake. The two of them only stopped when they saw the sparkling lake. Phew, that was close. If we were a bit slower, those two people might have caught up. Tang Yu couldn't help but pat his chest. Ying Ying was even more touched. She hugged Tang Yu's waist and didn't let go. "Thank you, Tang Yu. You saved me. I want to be with you forever." Tang Yu didn't push Ying Ying away. He allowed the girl's young body to stick close to him. He even wrapped his arms around her waist. After a while, the two separated. Tang Yu said, "Let's go find Mingwei now. Remember, you can't do this in front of Mingwei." Looking at Tang Yu's charming face, Ying Ying nodded. She knew that she couldn't be with Tang Yu, but she was willing to be his secret lover. "Can you find a mark left by Mingwei?" Tang Yu asked. "Yes, I can. Let me see," Ying Ying said as she put on a pair of glasses and looked around. "I found it." She went north. I saw the dust she scattered. "We just need to follow this river north, and we should be able to find her." "Okay, let's go." Tang Yu was in a hurry. Although Ying Ying was also a young and beautiful girl, she couldn't be compared to Su Mingyue's peerless beauty. The two left Shuxin Lake and headed north. As soon as they left, the two people from Squad 494 poked their heads out from behind the forest. "Brother Hua, why didn't you kill them?" "Lao San, what do you know? These two are just small fries. That beauty in white is the real deal." "Hee hee, and you say you're not a pervert. You're just thinking about beauties all day long. You're only half right. That girl is beautiful, but she has another identity. She's the holy maiden of the divine sect in the capital Bay City. As a holy maiden, she must have a token from the divine sect on her. That's the real treasure." "Oh, what treasure?" Lao San asked. Treasure from the ancient god ruins. Do you think it's worth it?" "So it's the ancient god ruins. The things from that place are all unique. That's why I purposely let these two rookies go. With them leading the way, we'll be able to get both the girl and the treasure." "Then why aren't we leaving?" "Ha ha, beauty. Which treasure should I take from the ancient god ruins? What a headache." Chapter 142. Early in the morning, Lin Jun crawled out of the river. He was so tired that he was almost exhausted. Lying on his back on the riverbank, his chest heaving up and down violently, Lin Jun was in a very good mood. After a day and night of experimentation, he had gone from being able to launch 30 waterfall attacks in a row to 300. This had increased by more than 10 times. Every attack is like a waterfall. Ordinary warlords would definitely find it difficult to resist such an attack. My long lightning river has already formed a preliminary combat power. However, I don't have to leave in a hurry. I'll stay here and cultivate for a while. At the very least, I have to let the 2 meteor crystals mature before I leave. As he thought about the meteor crystals, Lin Jun's spirits were lifted a little. Calculating the time, the meteor crystal on the right should be about to mature. After adjusting his breathing for a while, Lin Jun felt that his condition had recovered a little. He got up and left, once again heading to the location of the meteor crystals. When he got there, Lin Jun climbed up, lifted the cover he had set up, and saw that both meteor crystals were there. The one on the right had already grown a lot. It should become a comet crystal in a few hours. Great. With this comet crystal, my strength will improve further. Although I can't enter the late stage of a 4th grade warlord, I could take a big step forward on the road to the middle stage. Seeing that the meteor crystals were about to mature, Lin Jun didn't want to go back to his nest. He simply sat there and adjusted his breathing. After a night of hard training, his Dantian Qi had basically been exhausted. The adjustment just now was just a drop in the bucket. He needed some time to recover. However, before he could do it once, Lin Jun suddenly opened his eyes. Danger! A telekinesis master's five senses were very sharp. Even his sixth sense was sharper than that of ordinary people. He felt that something was staring at him. What is it? It seems to be some kind of predator. Lin Jun's eyes looked around, trying to find the killer lurking in the dark among the green trees. The surrounding verdant leaves swayed gently in the breeze. Lin Jun looked for a while, but he didn't find anything. He turned his head and looked behind him. There was nothing behind him, but the feeling of danger was getting stronger. It must be some kind of mutated insect, but what kind of insect can give me such a dangerous feeling? It's hiding nearby. Why can't I find it? While thinking, Lin Jun's mind flashed with inspiration. He suddenly remembered the knowledge introduced in the survival manual. Some insects could use the color of their bodies as camouflage and hide in places that were similar to their color. This way, it would be difficult for their prey to discover their presence, and it would be convenient for them to launch sneak attacks. I'm surrounded by green leaves, so this insect must be green as well. I overlooked this just now. Let's look again. This time, Lin Jun's attention was on these leaves. His spiritual reading power began to spread out, and the 5 throwing knives were all in the air, ready to face the sudden appearance of the predator. Over there. Suddenly, Lin Jun saw a green, tree-like object less than 5 meters away from him. Its green body was almost merged with the leaves. Its length was more than 5 meters, and there was a pair of 2-meter-long sharp knives on its forelimbs. Its black eyes would only blink occasionally. It was a mutated mantis. Among insects, mantises were definitely at the level of fierce generals. Its serrated mantis knife was definitely a killing machine. It could even easily dismember other mutated insects, let alone humans. Just as Lin Jun discovered this mutated mantis, the mantis also moved. It moved silently, and its long body dismembered in front of Lin Jun. A mantis knife was waved and slashed fiercely at Lin Jun. If Lin Jun was cut by this knife, he would definitely be cut in half. Lin Jun didn't dare to be careless. He quickly bent down, and the mantis knife swept over his head. The bright silver spear appeared in his hand. Lin Jun immediately launched a counterattack. Torrential rain. A wave of spear light rained over, but the mantis only used its mantis knife to block most of Lin Jun's attacks. Some of the spear light hit the mantis body, but only left a faint white mark. This thing's shell is so hard. Torrential rain is useless. Seeing that the spear didn't succeed, the mantis swung its other mantis knife again. This time, its attack was as fast as lightning. This was the mantis hunting instinct, speed. Lin Jun didn't even have time to dodge. Helplessly, the liquid metal instantly turned into armor. A large bulge appeared on his shoulder and blocked the mantis knife. The powerful impact directly cut Lin Jun off the branch. A large part of the liquid metal also caved in, but it quickly returned to its original state. Lin Jun only felt the blood in his chest churning. He couldn't help but bleed. Although his bones weren't broken, the impact still hurt his internal organs. What a strong mantis. It looks like I won't be able to defeat it without using the newly learned Long River. Lin Jun's 5 throwing knives clanged as they attacked the mantis. However, they couldn't even break the mantis shell. These 5 throwing knives were bought by Lin Jun a long time ago. They cost 200,000 each. Now, they couldn't keep up with the times. The mantis nimbly jumped down from the tree and rushed towards Lin Jun again. Beast, you really think I'm easy to bully? Come on. Lin Jun was ruthless. His body was like a mountain. The bright silver spear in his hand drew a mysterious arc, and the spear rushed out like a waterfall. Dang! A loud crash echoed in the forest. The tree trunk under Lin Jun's feet let out an unpleasant groan. It actually cracked open. Although it was a small branch, it was still more than a meter thick. It actually couldn't block the mantis attack. The praying mantis also let out a shriek, and its body flew backwards. The knife chopped down, but it didn't push Lin Jun back at all. Lin Jun's attack succeeded. He didn't show any mercy. He took a big stride forward. Long River of Lightning. A golden light flashed through the forest. The long spear's light was like the Milky Way hanging upside down, crashing down. Although the mantis's knife blocked Lin Jun's attack, it couldn't resolve the impact. It was once again sent flying by Lin Jun, crashing into a tree trunk. Again, I'll take your life while you're down. Lin Jun revolved his Dantian Chi and attacked again. After a dozen attacks, Lin Jun finally found a flaw in the mantis's defense. He pierced its head with his spear. With a flick of his spear, a crystal flew out of the mantis's head. It was about to fall down the tree, but Lin Jun sucked it into his interspatial ring. After losing the crystal it relied on to survive, the mantis could no longer stand. It twitched a few times before dying completely. It went from being a predator to being Lin Jun's prey. I've finally dealt with this troublesome fellow. This is the scariest insect I've ever encountered in the forest. If I hadn't just learned Long River, I wouldn't have been its opponent. Lin Jun tore off his tattered clothes. This mantis was too difficult to deal with. His clothes had been torn apart during the battle. After throwing away his clothes, Lin Jun sat on the ground. He felt his limbs go soft, and his chest was very uncomfortable. Although the mantis's knife didn't give him a serious shock, he still needed some time to recover. After lying on the tree trunk for a full 3 hours, Lin Jun stood up and meditated for another 2 hours. Only then did he recover half of his strength. Looks like I won't be able to practice Long River tonight. I'd better hurry up and collect the star crystals. As long as I absorb the energy in the star crystals, I'll be able to fully recover. My realm will also improve a lot. Lin Jun climbed up. He was only wearing a pair of boxer shorts. He was too lazy to change his clothes from his interspatial ring. He climbed up the blossoming tree trunk again. When he returned, one of the meteor crystals had indeed evolved. It had just evolved into a comet crystal. It dragged a long tail and floated above the stamen. Great, this is my second comet crystal. I'll take it back to my nest to absorb. After all, this place isn't very safe. Lin Jun didn't immediately collect the comet crystal. Instead, he dismembered the mantis's corpse. He used liquid metal to turn it into a saw. First, he cut off the mantis's 2 giant knives and stored them in his interspatial ring. The mantis's knives didn't have a single crack, even after he hit them with Long River. This was the hardest part of the mantis's body. Its quality was much better than the bright silver spear. In addition, Lin Jun also removed one of the mantis's legs. This leg was as thick as a pillar. He could use it to make a barbecue. Although there was no seasoning, it was still better than eating beef jerky and compressed biscuits every day. After doing all this, Lin Jun collected the comet crystal. After collecting the comet crystal, it had to be absorbed within 10 minutes. Lin Jun immediately carried the mantis's legs and quickly returned to his nest. After passing through a few tree trunks, the sound of water splashing could be heard. Lin Jun waded across the river and returned to the nest. However, as soon as he climbed out of the river, he saw something that shocked him. Su Mingwei was wearing a white divine official dress with a golden ribbon tied around her waist. Her delicate body was slightly squatting as she inspected her nest. Lin Jun didn't have time to tidy it up when he left. The nest was still covered with flower petals. It was obvious that someone was living there. Su Mingwei heard the sound and looked up. Immediately, her beautiful face turned red. She turned her head and said, "Shameless." Lin Jun was stunned. His first reaction when he saw Su Mingwei was to run, but where could he run to? It wasn't easy to find such a place. He didn't want to leave. Just as he was thinking about how to deal with it, he heard her call him shameless. Lin Jun looked down and immediately felt awkward. Chapter 143. Lin Jun wouldn't mind if there was no one else around, but there was, and it was the noble and inviolable saintess of the divine sect. Lin Jun felt embarrassed. However, he had lived for 1,000 years after all, and this was his second lifetime. The thickness of his skin was definitely incomparable to that of an ordinary person. Thinking about it, wouldn't Su Mingwei feel uncomfortable like this? So be it. I believe that you wouldn't dare to attack me like this. Lin Jun carried the mantis leg back to the nest and threw it on the ground. He said, "What a small world. I didn't expect to meet the saintess here." You're not here for me, are you? Su Mingyue's face was burning hot. She wanted to leave, but was unwilling to. However, she couldn't turn around to look. She could only turn around and say to Lin Jun, "Put on your clothes first before we talk." "I don't have any clothes. My clothes were torn during the battle. I don't have any spare ones. Why don't you give me your dress? I'm not afraid of being laughed at." "No. If you keep doing this, I won't be polite." Su Mingyue was really angry. Lin Jun smiled and raised his hand. The liquid metal that he had put in his spatial ring flew out and turned into something like a skirt, covering his lower body. "It's done this time. Turn around." Su Mingyue turned around hesitantly. When she saw that Lin Jun was wearing armor, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. Of course, she didn't realize it was liquid metal. She thought it was an ordinary armor. With a layer of frost on her face, Su Mingyue drew her sword and said to Lin Jun, "Lin Jun, why did you run? Are you kidding me?" Lin Jun was in a hurry to absorb the comet crystal. 3 minutes had passed. He didn't want to talk too much with Su Mingyue, so he said, "I have my reasons, but I can't tell you in detail yet. Don't you want me to join the divine sect? Let's talk later, okay?" However, Su Mingyue said, "When I came here, I thought about it very clearly. You are a shameless, greedy, and selfish person. When you see your classmates in danger, you don't care. Instead, you want to take advantage of them. Even if you join our sect, I'm afraid you will cause more trouble. So I changed my mind." "Why did you change your mind? Are you going to teach me a lesson?" Lin Jun asked. "That's right. I'm going to teach you a lesson so you won't cause more trouble." Lin Jun was helpless when he saw the silly girl who had been brainwashed by the divine sect. Normally, he could argue with Su Mingyue, but the comet crystal was still in his spatial ring. For minutes had passed, and he would lose everything if he continued to argue. However, he was still unhappy. The Su Mingyue in front of him was not the Su Mingyue he had met in his previous life. The Su Mingyue who had recognized the true face of the starry sky, true God, and bravely resisted. He had to say something. "Saint Su, I'm sorry for your naivety. You said that I, Lin Jun, can't do it. Are all the members of the divine sect good?" Su Mingyue's beautiful face showed a hint of pride. "Of course, every member of the divine sect must have several qualities: sincerity, kindness, courage, fearlessness, and so on. For example, a few days ago, you were hiding in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to steal something, while we were fighting bravely. None of us flinched in the face of a strong enemy. That's courage. Haha. So you're saying that Tang Yu and your sisters are also qualified followers? Yes, they're all excellent. They'll never abandon their companions like you. Even if it's for strangers, they'll fight for justice. They won't be afraid of any enemy." Su Mingyue's tone was resolute. Lin Jun couldn't help but scratch his head. Seeing that he couldn't persuade the stubborn girl in a short time, he had to change his tone. "Okay, even if you're right, can you give me some time? I'll find a way to persuade you. Just an hour. Don't even think about playing tricks in front of me. I've been fooled once, and there won't be a second time." Su Mingyue swung her long sword as she spoke. She was really going to attack Lin Jun. Lin Jun knew the situation wasn't good. Even if he was in perfect condition, he might not be a match for Su Mingyue, not to mention that he was exhausted at the moment. "You're forcing me to do this." Lin Jun clenched his teeth and made a ruthless move. The liquid metal around his waist suddenly slid down, revealing his boxers. Su Mingyue couldn't help but cover her eyes. Her move slowed, and Lin Jun immediately retreated. "Shameless thief, even if you're like this, I won't let you go so easily," Su Mingyue said. She seemed to be resisting the urge to deal with Lin Jun. Unexpectedly, Lin Jun grabbed the edge of his underwear with both hands and was about to take it off. He even said to Su Mingyue, "If you dare come closer, I'll pee on your skirt." Su Mingyue could no longer resist Lin Jun's shamelessness. She fiercely stomped her foot, turned around, and retreated. "I'll give you an hour. After an hour, if you don't give me a reasonable explanation, I'll definitely teach you a lesson today." Lin Jun secretly felt lucky. He had no other choice. It was probably only effective on a girl like Su Mingyue, who was as pure as a piece of white paper. She had lived in the church since she was a child and lived the life of an ascetic monk. She did understand the outside world of Huahua, and no one had ever been disrespectful to her. If it was anyone else, it would be useless. However, Lin Jun didn't feel much killing intent from Su Mingwei. This girl was still angry because she was played by him. She didn't want to kill him. Most likely, she still wanted to teach him a lesson. After he became obedient, she would brainwash him into joining her church. Hee, naive, silly girl. Give me an hour. After an hour, I will be in a good state and improve my realm. At that time, even if I can't beat you, you can forget about catching me. Lin Jun made up his mind. He threw down the mantis leg, got up, ran behind a tree trunk, and disappeared. Su Mingwei stood there in a daze. The red glow on her face hadn't subsided. She even forgot to monitor whether Lin Jun would run away or not. She was thinking about how to teach Lin Jun a lesson in a while and make him obediently join her church. After all, a beginner warlord could compete with her on the same field and almost win. Such a talent was really rare. What kind of doctrine can I use to convince him? It would be best if there was an example. It would be the most persuasive. Su Mingwei racked her brains. After about half an hour, she suddenly heard footsteps in the distance. Lin Jun is back. No, didn't he go over there? While Su Mingwei was puzzled, the leaves in front of her flashed, and two people appeared. It wasn't Lin Jun. It was actually Tang Yu and her companion Ying. Tang Yu? Ying? Why are you two here? Su Mingwei asked. Mingwei, I finally found you. Ying found the mark you left behind and followed you here. Tang Yu walked in front of Su Mingwei. His eyes were full of tenderness. Looking at the beauty in front of him and smelling the faint fragrance on her body, he really wanted to immediately hold her in his arms. Ying also walked over. Yes, we were chased on the way. Fortunately, Brother Tang Yu took me and escaped. Chased? Who chased you? Su Mingwei asked. Two people from 494. The two advanced warlords, Ying replied. Su Mingwei suddenly frowned. Although she was a little naive, she was definitely not a fool. She had an amazing talent and insight in combat. Not good. Those two people are very strong. You guys were able to escape from them and smoothly arrive here. I'm afraid things aren't that simple. Su Mingwei instinctively felt that there was a problem. Tang Yu smiled. Mingwei, your worry is a little unnecessary. Even if those two people chased us, with the two of us working together, do we need to be afraid of them? Just as he finished speaking, laughter came from the forest behind them. Ha ha! The capital Saintis is indeed extraordinary. You guessed our intentions so quickly. Today, I'll let you and this idiot work together. Let's see how you guys will get through this. Two advanced warlords walked out of the forest and came in front of Su Mingwei. Tang Yu's expression suddenly changed. Only now did he realize that they hadn't shaken off the other party at all. The other party had been following them, and their target was most likely Su Mingwei. Su Mingwei glanced at the two advanced warlords. One was a peak level 9 telekinesis master, and the other was a peak level 9 natural speed user. They were almost at the limit of the warlord level. She wasn't confident in winning this battle. If it was one-on-one, Su Mingwei was confident that she wouldn't lose. But what about Tang Yu? Could he resist one of them? She slowly opened her mouth. You guys are so scheming. What exactly do you want? Saint Su, I know you. A man stood up first. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Ahua. I was originally from the capital Bay City, so I know a little about the situation there. I know that the Church of God's Grace has a treasure from the ruins of the ancient gods called the Astral Mirror. It has always been in the custody of the Saintis. It should be in your hands, right? Su Mingwei didn't speak. God's teachings never allowed her to lie, but she didn't want to admit it. Saintis, you don't have to deny it. Even if you don't admit it, we'll find it if we win. It's a small mirror that the Saintis always carries with her. If I'm not wrong, you're wearing it on your chest right now. As he spoke, Brother Hua looked at Su Mingwei's towering chest with evil intentions. It was really a place that people yearned for day and night. Su Mingwei's expression changed. You guys want the astral mirror? Smart, but you're only half right. It's absolutely impossible for me to give you the astral mirror. Tell me your second condition. If it's not too much, I can agree to it. Ha ha ha. Then listen to my second condition. Su Mingwei, you're as beautiful as a fairy. When I was in the capital, You are only 15 years old and already charmed tens of thousands of people. Now, you're even more beautiful. The two of us admire you very much. I wonder if you can accompany us and spend the night with us? Su Mingyue's expression turned cold. Shameless. In your dreams. Since we can't reach an agreement, then let's cut the crap. Today, I want the treasure. No one can leave. Lao San, let's go. Chapter 144. Seeing the two opponents rushing towards her, Su Mingyue knew that a fierce battle was inevitable today. Since she had no choice, she could only fight. She couldn't agree to either of the two conditions of the opponent. Su Mingyue drew her long sword and took the lead to face the opponent's telekinesis master, Ahua. As for Tang Yu and Ying Ying, they went up together to block the third brother. As soon as Su Mingyue and Ahua exchanged blows, she knew that today's battle would not be easy. Her opponent's strength was not below hers. After all, he had been trapped in the stellar fruit tree for 3 years. His strength was almost at the peak of a warlord, but Su Mingyue still had room for improvement. In particular, her opponent was a telekinesis master. Su Mingyue's hidden weapon was also a flying dagger, but her opponent's hidden weapon was a few flying daggers. The two of them exchanged blows, and their hidden weapons constantly collided in the air. It was hard to tell who was better. However, this kind of battle was the most dangerous. In a battle between masters, one careless mistake could lead to defeat. No matter who it was, they couldn't support their companions. In this way, the battle between Tang Yu and Ying Ying against Lao San became the key to victory. Lao San was a natural speed user. This person's speed had reached an incredible level. After fighting with him, Tang Yu realized that he hadn't used his full strength at all. He was deliberately hiding his strength. Now that he and Ying Ying had teamed up, they were still losing. Tang Yu's flying daggers were also useless. Lao San's reaction was extremely fast, and the flying daggers couldn't do anything. Tang Yu and Ying Ying could only grit their teeth and hold on. When the battle reached 20 minutes, there was a turn. Lao San dodged Tang Yu's sword and quickly attacked. His sword slashed across Ying Ying's back, and a wound immediately appeared. Ying Ying screamed and fell, losing the ability to fight again. Tang Yu was even more powerless against Lao San alone. After 3 minutes, Lao San seized the opportunity to stab her in the thigh. She fell to the ground awkwardly, unable to even use her flying daggers. After defeating 2 people in a row, Lao San quickly went to support Ahua. The two of them teamed up to fight Su Mingyue. Su Mingyue finally couldn't hold on any longer. The two of them were also proficient in joint attacks. After a head-on collision, Su Mingyue also let out a low cry. Her delicate body was shaken more than 10 meters away and heavily crashed into a tree trunk. Although her injuries were not serious, the blood and qi in her chest were roiling, making it difficult for her to get up for a while. It's finally settled. This girl is really troublesome. If it weren't for the two of us working together, I might have lost to her. Hee hee, it's really tiring. It's all thanks to that couple that they're too weak. Otherwise, we brothers would have easily failed today. Ahua and Lao San were also panting. After such a long battle, the two of them were exhausted. Fortunately, they held on and won. Su Mingyue resisted the roiling blood and qi in her chest. She turned to look at Tang Yu and Ying Ying. Seeing the two of them snuggling together, she didn't think much and asked anxiously, "How are the two of you?" Tang Yu frowned in pain. "Mingyue, I'm seriously injured. I don't have much fighting ability." One of his legs was dragging. It was already tied with a piece of cloth, but it was still soaked with blood. Ying Ying's back was also bandaged. It was done when Su Mingyue was fighting the other two. Su Mingyue took a deep breath. "You don't have to be afraid. It's not like we don't have the ability to fight to the death. Even if we die, we'll take one of them with us. At most, we'll return to the arms of the starry sky, true God. We won't let them succeed." Ahua laughed again. "Saintess Su, don't think that everyone's faith is as devout as you. Maybe there's no one in this world who believes in the true God more than you. But so what? Will your true God come out to save you now?" Su Mingyue raised her head resolutely. "If the true God doesn't save me, then it means that my faith isn't enough. Forget it. If your faith isn't enough, then who else in this world is? What's the use of such a high level of faith? Why don't you come with me and live a carefree life together? As he spoke, Ahua walked over and was about to lift Su Mingyue's chin with his hand. Su Mingyue suddenly raised her hand and took out a small mirror that flashed with white light. This is the stargazing mirror you want. Do you still want it? The stargazing mirror was a treasure of the Church of Divine Grace. It was said to have come from the ruins of the ancient gods. It wasn't an item from Earth. It wasn't of much help in battle, but through it, regardless of whether it was cloudy or sunny, day or night, one could see the stars in the sky. It was said that there was a divine master in the Church of Divine Grace who cultivated to the weak of fleeting. He could see even more wonderful scenes through the mirror, but no one knew what he saw. However, this treasure was passed down. Someone once went to the Church of Divine Grace to buy it, but they couldn't get it even after offering 50 billion. Ahua's eyes lit up when he saw the stargazing mirror. Yes, this is the treasure. Sweetheart, give it to Big Brother, okay? Su Mingyue shook her head. Unless you let us go, I won't give it to you. I'll destroy it immediately. Ahua sneered. Sweetheart, don't play tricks with Big Brother. With your level of faith, how could you take the initiative to give this treasure to me? You better give it to me obediently, or I'll kill these two people first. Laosen walked over and pointed his blade at Tang Yu and Ying Ying. Seeing that the other side didn't fall for it, Su Mingyue took a deep breath. Stop dreaming. I'll destroy this thing and kill myself. Don't even think about it. As for my companions, we're ready to return to the embrace of the true gods. Is that so? Then let's see if your companions' bones are as hard as yours. Ahua waved his hand, and Sam was about to make a move. At this time, Ying Ying suddenly cried, Mingyue, I don't want to die. Su Mingyue froze and then said angrily, Ying Ying, we're all believers of the gods. After we die, we'll return to the divine kingdom. What are you afraid of? That's what you think. Only you would think that. We're not like you. After all these years, who has seen what the gods look like? Perhaps the gods were just some stronger martial artists. We joined the divine sect just to be looked up to. Who would really be willing to die for some illusory god? Don't be stupid. Su Mingyue looked at her former companions in disbelief. Hearing them shouting themselves hoarse, she didn't know how to respond. Ying Ying continued. What's so good about that broken mirror? Just give it to them. At least the three of us can live. Su Mingyue hurriedly said, but they have a second request. Ying Ying hesitated. That's nothing. Just treat it as being bitten by a dog. It's not like you'll lose a piece of meat. Could it be that in your eyes, your chastity is more important than my life and Tang Yu's? You'd rather watch us die than sacrifice anything. You're too selfish. I'm selfish? Su Mingyue froze. Ying Ying's words seemed irrefutable, but weren't some things more precious than life? Tang Yu, what do you say? Su Mingyue looked at Tang Yu with a trace of hope, hoping that he would say something different. Tang Yu hesitated and then said in a deep voice, Mingyue, a wise man submits to circumstances. Even if you're a god, there might be times when you can't control yourself. I think you know that I love you deeply. Although you might be humiliated this time, I won't abandon you. I'll wait for the day you return to my side. What did you say? Su Mingyue couldn't believe her ears. Su Mingyue was naturally aware that Tang Yu liked her, but Su Mingyue was prepared to dedicate her life to God, so she could only say sorry to Tang Yu. Moreover, she had never thought of love as anything good, and had never even had such feelings. In her opinion, Tang Yu should be a devout person like her. Otherwise, how could he be a disciple of the head divine sect? However, the other party's words completely overturned her understanding. A huge impact hit her heart, causing her to not know what to do. How is it? How is it, sweetheart? Look at your so-called companions. You heard what they said, right? Stop talking about your illusory god. The things in front of you are real. Come, give me the star-observing mirror and you'll be happy. Ying Ying also continued, Mingyue, agree to his conditions. Otherwise, we'll die. Tang Yu, the three of us will always be together, okay? Tang Yu also slightly nodded his head, still looking very elegant. Looking at the two of them holding hands, Su Mingyue suddenly smiled faintly. She rarely smiled, but this smile was very beautiful. It was like 100 flowers blooming, causing everyone present to be stunned. I'll remember your words. However, everyone has their own beliefs. I'm sorry, we're not the same kind of people. I won't agree to these conditions. If you're still alive in the future, please bring my body back to God's grace. Forget it. Let me stay here. I don't want to go back. Su Mingwe suddenly held her sword in front of her neck. Tears flowed down her face. Is there really no God? What kind of faith do you need to save me? If there's a next life, I won't believe in you anymore. As she spoke, she was about to kill herself. She didn't even care about the star-observing mirror. In fact, she couldn't destroy this kind of treasure. She only said that to make the other party hesitate. Ahua secretly cursed. He didn't expect this girl to be so unyielding. He wanted to stop her, but it was too late. However, at this moment, a throwing knife suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It fiercely knocked away Su Mingyue's sword. Who is it? Everyone turned their heads to look. Chapter 145. Su Mingyue raised her head and looked at Lin Jun, who was wearing a skirted armor and swaying on the tree vines. Her eyes were a little blurred by tears, but a glimmer of hope emerged in her heart. He was right. Warriors had to fight endlessly. How could she give up so easily? This had nothing to do with faith or the gods. Even if her friends betrayed her, even if she was abandoned by the gods, Su Mingyue was still an independent person. How could she not cherish her life? Brat, I remember you. You were the one who stole the comet crystal that day. Good. You actually dared to appear in front of me. Today, I will catch all of you in one fell swoop. Ahua suddenly recognized Lin Jun. That's right, it's me. Speaking of which, the two of you are really as fast as a tortoise. You can't even catch a beginner warlord like me. It seems like the two of you aren't any big shots in the treetop area. Why do you have to clamor about catching all of us in one fell swoop? Brat, don't talk nonsense. You ran away that day, but you won't be able to run away again today. Lin Jun laughed. Since I'm here, I have no intention of running away. Just you wait. After he finished speaking, he looked at Su Mingyue. Saint Su, you should rest as soon as possible. Leave these two guys to me. After you've rested, come back and support me. Su Mingyue nodded and raised her hand to wipe away her tears. There was a trace of warmth in her heart. Lin Jun could see that the two of them were at their weakest after fighting with Su Mingyue. On the other hand, he had just finished absorbing a comet crystal. At this moment, his condition was almost at its peak. He had already taken a big step forward in the intermediate stage of the 4th grade warlord realm. It was just the right time to use these two people as practice. Grandpa is coming. Lin Jun suddenly jumped down from the tree vines and pounced toward Ahua. He raised the bright silver spear in his hand high in the air and attacked with his newly trained skill, Lightning River. Lightning particles flickered on his body, and silver electric arcs jumped on the spear. The spear light changed in the air and turned into a monstrous wave that directly enveloped Ahua. What a fierce attack! Ahua's expression turned cold. This intermediate warlord was not easy to deal with. However, he wasn't afraid. As a 9th grade warlord, he had enough confidence to deal with Lin Jun, even though he was very tired at the moment. Circulating his Dantian Qi, he did not use the long sword in his hand. Instead, he took out a long spear from his spatial ring. As an advanced level battle general, he was skilled in the use of many weapons. Against a heavy weapon like the long spear, he had to use the long spear to fight. The two spears collided with each other, as if they were two sticks. Clang! The loud noise shook everyone's eardrums. Ahua's feet trembled slightly, but he still stood firm. Stinking brat, even if this attack is fierce, you're destined to be powerless. Now watch my counterattack. Before he could finish speaking, Lin Jun's second attack had already arrived. It was still a monstrous wave that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. There was nowhere to dodge. Ahua was helpless and could only take it head-on again. After another loud noise, Ahua stood firm again. Just as he was about to counterattack, the situation that made him feel like his liver and guts were about to burst happened again. The third wave behind Lin Jun had already risen and smashed down again. How is this possible? How does this brat have the ability to launch 3 consecutive attacks like this? Can his Dantian chi support it? This is illogical. Illogical was illogical, but Ahua still had to take it head-on. After the third collision, he finally couldn't withstand the powerful impact and couldn't help but take a step back. Taking a step back was a big deal. Lin Jun's long river of lightning came crashing down wave after wave. Sparks constantly bloomed from the weapon and hit the tree trunk. Lin Jun smashed down wave after wave like a hammer. Before the first attack ended, the second attack had already risen. Just as the second attack fell, the third attack began to brew. After taking more than 10 attacks in a row, Ahua couldn't stand firm anymore. He continuously retreated and lost the initiative. It was very difficult for him to turn around under Lin Jun's attacks. Finally, he couldn't help but shout, "Lao San, what are you still looking at? Don't care about those 2 people. Come and save me." Only then did Lao San react. He didn't expect the powerful Ahua to be unable to block the crazy attacks of Lin Jun, an intermediate warlord. He hurriedly picked up his saber and attacked from behind. With the 2 of them attacking from the front and back, the situation finally changed. Lin Jun couldn't use his long river of lightning to attack Ahua. He changed from attacking to defending. The bright silver spear in his hand spun faster than a windmill. Thousands of spear shadows flickered, crisscrossed, and blocked the 2 people's attacks. Ahua and Lao San didn't believe it. With the 2 of them working together, this intermediate warlord was as easy as pie. The 2 of them attacked separately. Occasionally, they would attack forcefully, and occasionally, they would show weakness. Occasionally, they would work together and use cold attacks. However, no matter how they changed their moves, Lin Jun was like a tall mountain. With a spear in hand, he couldn't be shaken. Tang Yu and Ying Ying looked at Lin Jun in disbelief. They didn't understand how this brat could have such powerful combat strength. He could actually withstand the crazy attacks of 2 advanced warlords and not take a single step back. Would it kill you to take a step back? How could you be so tough? Tang Yu muttered in her heart. However, Lin Jun stubbornly defended the 3 feet radius around him and didn't move an inch. The collision was as intense as a popcorn. 5 minutes, a whole 5 minutes. Ahua and Lao San were exhausted and had no choice but to retreat temporarily. "Brother Hua, look." Lao San pointed at Lin Jun's feet as if he had discovered a new continent. Ahua panted and lowered his head to look. He saw that Lin Jun's feet were already 5 or 6 centimeters deep into the tree. His feet were stuck in the wood, but he didn't move an inch. We didn't even force him to take half a step back. How'd he do it? Ahua looked at Lin Jun in shock. Maybe we didn't have any strength because of the fight just now. Lao San explained uncertainly. At this time, Lin Jun raised his head and exhaled deeply. "Are you 2 done? Since you're done, it's my turn again." "Impossible. You still have the strength to attack. You'll know if you try. Come on, have a taste of my long river of lightning." Lin Jun shook his long spear, and the long river of lightning roared again. This time, the target was 2 people, 2 level 9 warlords. The 3 of them started fighting again. Ahua and Lao San were actually suppressed by Lin Jun for a while. Every time Lin Jun attacked, their arms would tremble and their feet would retreat. They didn't understand how Lin Jun could achieve such a high-intensity attack. Fortunately, there were 2 of them, and they could take turns to resist. If there was only one of them, they would have collapsed under such a powerful attack. The fierce battle continued for another 5 or 6 minutes. Lin Jun retracted his spear and retreated again. His chest was heaving up and down violently, but he still put on a defensive posture. He couldn't continue attacking with such intensity forever. He couldn't take down 2 level 9 warlords in one go. He had to save some strength to defend himself. When Su Mingwei recovered a little, it would be time for him to counterattack. Seeing Lin Jun preparing to defend again, Ahua and Lao San panted violently and felt powerless. This person just stood there with his spear, giving them a feeling of looking up at a tall mountain. They felt that the other party was a mountain. Their attacks were like a storm, but it was useless. They could only scratch an itch for the mountain. As soon as this feeling was born, The feeling of powerlessness appeared uncontrollably. They both had the same thought of retreating. However, in this situation, it would be a pity for them to give up. They didn't have the strength to continue fighting. They were in a dilemma. This kind of hesitation was fatal. Lin Jun was also an arrow at the end of its flight. That was why he activated the body of a mountain to deter the other party. If the two of them continued to attack desperately, they might be able to take down Lin Jun in one fell swoop. Just as they were hesitating, Su Mingwei stood up. She had just suffered an impact. Her blood and qi were not flowing smoothly, so she didn't have much combat power. However, Lin Jun had bought her 10 precious minutes. Now, she had recovered a lot. Although she wasn't in perfect condition, she could still fight. Lin Jun, thank you. Let's fight side by side. Su Mingyue's soft body leaned over and stood side by side with Lin Jun. She pointed the sword in her hand at Ahua and Lao San. Ahua and Lao San looked at each other. They both felt that the situation was not good. If this continued, it was no longer a question of whether they could win. It was a question of whether they could keep their lives. They couldn't even take down Lin Jun. If Su Mingyue, who was even more powerful, joined the fray, they would lose without a doubt. Brother Hua, what should we do? Lao San asked. What else can we do? Let's retreat. The two of them had a tacit understanding. They retreated at the same time, turned around, and ran. One each. We can't let them escape. Su Mingyue said. She was going to chase after the stronger brother Hua. You go after that one. This one is mine. Remember to catch him alive. Lin Jun jumped up. He stepped on the liquid metal shield and went straight for Ahua. Ahua was also a spirit reader. His spiritual strength was even stronger than Lin Jun's. He was about to disappear in a flash. Where do you think you're going? Lin Jun's silver spear shot out and went straight for Ahua's back. Oomph. It's useless. I'm not dead. Do you think I'll just let you shoot me? Ahua sneered disdainfully. He wanted to turn around. But at this moment, a strong suction force came from behind him. His forward body stopped abruptly, and he was forced to retreat. Before he could understand what was going on, the spear had already pierced through his body and came out of his chest. It shattered his heart in one hit. A level 9 warlord, a spirit reader in the later stage of gold, died on the spot without knowing why. Lin Jun walked over. He didn't even have time to care about his spear. Instead, he took the space ring from his opponent. TSK. A level 9 warlord, a gold spirit reader. This kind of person must have a lot of good stuff. I hope you won't disappoint me. Chapter 146. After taking care of Ahua, Lin Jun turned the liquid metal into armor again to cover his unsightly boxers. Then, he slowly returned to his nest. Su Mingyue's movements were also very fast. She had also returned and brought back the unconscious Lao San. Lao San was thrown to the ground and didn't care about him. Instead, he stared coldly at Tang Yu and Ying Ying. Tang Yu and Ying Ying seemed to want to take the opportunity to leave, but Su Mingyue blocked their way. Ying Ying begged in front of Su Mingyue, Mingyue, please let us go. We don't have the face to face you anymore. It's awkward for us to stay here. Why don't you let us leave? Tang Yu's face was also full of guilt. Mingyue, I know I've wronged you, but I had no choice in that situation. Also, you didn't tell me that you had reinforcements behind you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made that decision. Su Mingyue took a deep breath to calm herself down. Lin Jun isn't my reinforcements. I didn't think he would help me. Then what's going on? How did you guys end up together? And he's wearing that kind of clothes. Tang Yu was very concerned about this matter. Although Su Mingyue had never expressed her love for him, he had already regarded Su Mingyue as his exclusive property. Seeing her together with Lin Jun, and Lin Jun only wearing boxers, he couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. He felt betrayed. According to his understanding, as long as he asked, Su Mingyue, who had always been clean and honest, would definitely explain. That way, he would feel a little better. However, he didn't expect Su Mingyue to not explain. Instead, she looked at him and sneered. Why do you care? This sentence was like a bolt from the blue, completely shattering the last trace of hope in Tang Yu's heart. Okay, I don't care, but we don't have any grudges. We were friends before, right? Is it wrong for me to want to save my life in a life and death situation? You can let me go, right? It's not wrong for you to save your own life, but you shouldn't have made me agree to their conditions. Tang Yu, we weren't friends in the past, and we won't be in the future. In the end, Su Mingwe was still kind. She didn't want to hurt others. Tang Yu was fine, but she couldn't bear to deal with Ying Ying. Tang Yu and Ying Ying were overjoyed when they saw that Su Mingwe didn't want to pursue the matter. They turned around and were about to leave when they saw Lin Zhan standing behind them. Lin Zhan, what are you doing? Tang Yu asked cautiously. Hee, nothing. I just want to see the faces of you cheating couple. You are really shameless. Even at this time, you still want to play the blame game. If I let you go, wouldn't that be like letting a tiger return to the mountain? Who knows if you are afraid of being exposed and come back for revenge in the future? Tang Yu and Ying Ying's faces suddenly changed. Tang Yu said, Lin Zhan, this has nothing to do with you. This is between us and Mingwe. It's best if you don't meddle. Mingwe agreed to let us go, and I am willing to swear in the name of the true God that I will never come back to cause trouble. Haha. Although I don't believe in the true God, people like you don't even have the qualifications to believe in it. Treat what you just said as a fart. Tang Yu's face turned red and white. Then what do you want? Can I kill you? Lin Zhan asked. Tang Yu and Ying Ying took a step back in fear. If Lin Zhan wanted to make a move at this time, they had no chance of survival. Ying Ying shouted at Su Mingwe. Mingwe, you promised to let us go. Are you going to go back on your words? Su Mingwe hesitated for a moment, then came to Lin Zhan's side and said, Lin Zhan, forget it. They're acquaintances with me, and I don't want to see them. All right, you are a saintess. You're willing to let these kind of people go. Forget it. I will listen to you. Although they can be spared from death, they can't be forgiven. If I don't beat them up, my hands will itch. You can't care about this, right? Su Mingwe turned her head and slowly walked to the side. Clearly, she didn't want to interfere with Lin Zhan. Lin Zhan laughed. That smile was like a demon in the eyes of Tang Yu and Ying Ying. He suddenly pounced over her. First, he fiercely kicked Ying Ying, then hit her a few times in the back. Ying Ying screamed in pain and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Lin Zhan didn't continue to attack. He turned around and came in front of Tang Yu. Suddenly, he slapped Tang Yu's head. Tang Yu's hair was very long and messy. He had always been using a golden hairband to tie it up. This hairband seemed to be very expensive. When Lin Zhan saw Tang Yu, he had been wearing it. At this moment, his body was very weak. After being slapped by Lin Zhan, he staggered and his hair became even more messy. Great Divinity Sect's direct disciple. Slap. A big slap flashed over. Bingqing's #1 warrior. Slap. Another backhand slap was delivered. Incomparably devout to the gods. Slap. A third slap. You like Su Mingwe? I think you'd rather keep your own life a little more. Slap. Tang Yu was beaten to the point where he couldn't fight back. He didn't dare to fight back. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and 2 of his teeth were knocked out by Lin Zhan. His handsome face was swollen like a pig's head. Hitting you like this will only dirty my hands. Get lost as far as you can. After saying that, Lin Zhan kicked Tang Yu's lower abdomen, sending him flying more than 10 meters away. Tang Yu groaned and groaned for a long time before she finally got up. She glared at Lin Zhan viciously before she supported Ying Ying and staggered away. At this moment, Su Mingwe walked over. Her eyes were blurred by tears. Lin Zhan, thank you. Don't mention it. It's what I should do. I also don't like these 2 people. Su Mingwe nodded and didn't say anything. She went to the riverside alone and stared at the river in a daze. Lin Zhan looked at Su Mingwe and sighed. He quietly walked to the side and took out a small item. It was a small metal instrument. He prepared it when he came to the stellar fruit tree. It was the latest product of the Ministry of Science and Technology, a tracking device. The tracking device was very simple. It only needed a metal needle smaller than a needle. He had already left this tiny metal needle in Tang Yu's hairband when he patted him. There was no place to cut hair in this forest. Tang Yu's hairband would always be there. Lin Zhan needed to know Tang Yu's location because there was something important that would happen to him. Lin Zhan remembered that Tang Yu became famous in his previous life because he found a special stellar crystal with spatial energy in the stellar fruit tree. That was how he could soar and his combat strength soar. Tang Yu advanced to War God after obtaining the stellar crystal. This meant that he obtained it when he was at the peak of a ninth-grade warlord. Lin Jun located Tang Yu's location for this stellar crystal. Since they were both in the stellar fruit tree, he would know about Tang Yu's whereabouts sooner or later. When Tang Yu became a ninth-grade warlord, Lin Jun would definitely track him and find that stellar crystal. Then, he would intercept Tang Yu. As for Ying Ying, Lin Jun had already prepared a poison needle and shot it into her back. She definitely wouldn't live past tonight. A woman like her would be a scourge if she was left alive. She would definitely come back for revenge in the future. The earlier he got rid of her, the earlier he could be at ease. However, he didn't need to let Su Mingwen know about these things. Although this girl was very smart, she was as pure as a piece of white paper. It was better not to let her know about these things. Lin Jun glanced at the tracking device and put it away. Then, he walked over to Lao San. Grabbing his hair, Lin Jun slapped him awake. Without waiting for Lao San to speak, Lin Jun focused his eyes and sent out a mental attack. Lao San's current state couldn't withstand Lin Jun's mental attack at all. He felt a sharp pain in his head and howled. His eyes were dull. Speak. Which part of the stellar fruit tree has the most star crystals? The 3 forbidden areas have the most. Lao San answered instinctively. What are the 3 forbidden areas? Where are they? The 3 forbidden areas have beehives in the southeast of the treetop area. There is a huge beehive there. Ordinary warriors don't dare to go there. Many star crystals haven't been collected yet. Those who can go there are all experts. What else? The ant nest is located on a dead branch in the southwest. Dust and sand accumulated to form the ant nest. There are countless ants there. There are also many star crystals there. There is another one. There is also a place called the Sky Vault. It is said that it is directly above the fruit tree. It can absorb the sunlight and rain to the greatest extent. There are many star crystals there. However, it is controlled by the previous students. Ordinary people are not allowed to go there. Lin Jun sent out a few more mental attacks. Lao San was in a confused state and answered whatever he was asked. Lin Jun got what he wanted to know. Seeing that he couldn't get anything else out of Lao San, he took his interspatial ring and punched his temple, killing him and kicking his corpse away. Returning to the riverside, Su Mingwe was still staring at the river with tears in her eyes. Lin Jun knew that today's events had a big impact on her. As a divine sex saintess who believed in God since childhood, now doubted gods. It was inevitable that she would lose her purpose and direction in life. Plus, she was betrayed by her friends. She needed to be comforted. Saintess Su, you don't have to be like this. Be happy. What is there to be happy about? Su Mingwen murmured after a while. She had indeed lost her direction. Gods never appeared and wouldn't save anyone. The faith of others was so weak. What was the meaning of her existence as a divine sect saintess? Many things will happen in life. Let's just think about the happy things. For example, today is a day that I think is worth celebrating. Su Mingwen didn't answer. Lin Jun continued. You see, today you bravely defeated a strong opponent and saw the true colors of the 2 people beside you. You eliminated future dangers. These are all things worth celebrating. There's one more thing. What is it? Su Mingwen finally looked back at Lin Jun. Today is the new year. It is the new year. Isn't that something to be happy about? Today is the new year. Su Mingwen murmured. Yes, today is the New Year's Eve. I have always remembered. Lin Jun said and extended a hand to Su Mingwen. Saintess Su, let's celebrate the first new year we have known each other. Happy New Year. Chapter 147. Her delicate hand touched his rough hand, and a golden electric light jumped between their palms. It wasn't a static reaction, but rather, the electric ions in Lin Jun's body had accidentally jumped out. 09 little shop net. Su Mingwen cried out and retracted her hand. She didn't know it was electric ions, and thought it was a static reaction with Lin Jun. Pursing her red lips, Su Mingwen stole a glance at Lin Jun. She saw that he was looking at the water with his head lowered, and she let out a sigh of relief. What are you looking at? Su Mingwen asked. Looking at the water. Looking at the water? What's there to look at? Su Mingwe lowered her head. They were at the edge of the pool, and there were only slight ripples in the water, like a mirror. On the surface of the water, a handsome young man with well-defined muscles on his upper body sat side by side with a young girl in white who was as beautiful as a fairy and had a blushing face. The water rippled slightly, and the young man smiled. The scene was harmonious, warm, and beautiful. Lin Jun sighed. I really should change my clothes and take a photo as a souvenir so that I can brag to others in the future. Look, Holy Maiden Su and I are a good match. Su Mingwe turned to look at Lin Jun, and her beautiful peach blossom eyes rolled at him. You're actually not a bad person. If someone else talked to me like that, I would be very unhappy, but I know you're just teasing me, so I won't be angry. Lin Jun chuckled. It's good that you understand. A person's good or bad isn't determined by their appearance. Take Tang Yu, for example. He's usually such a gentle gentleman, but you've seen how he behaves in a life and death situation. Lin Jun, may be selfish and have many problems, but I'm definitely not like that kind of person who looks good on the outside but is rotten on the inside. Su Mingwen nodded slightly. You're right about one thing. After this incident, I feel like I've grown up a lot. I can see some people clearly. This is a good thing, and it's not worth being sad. That's right. Lin Jun stood up. I'm going to change my clothes. Su Mingwe turned around. Don't you have no clothes? That was a coincidence. My clothes were just torn, and I didn't have time to change them. Now that I have time, of course I can't keep doing this. Su Mingwe was angry. Lin Jun smiled and ran away. He arrived behind a large tree and rummaged through his spatial ring. When Lin Jun came, he had prepared more than 10 sets of clothes. Because he might not be able to leave the fruit tree for a few years, these clothes were absolutely necessary. He did not want to become a primitive man surrounded by leaves. It was a dark red tang suit with golden threads. Lin Jun thought for a moment and took it out. Today was the new year, so it was good to dress up in a festive manner. The liquid metal turned back into a belt inside his clothes. After changing into the tang suit, Lin Jun saw the 2 spatial rings inside. Now that there was nothing important, Lin Jun leaned against the tree trunk and opened one of the spatial rings. This ring was not the spatial ring that was later developed by the Ministry of Science and Technology. It was called the Marching Stone. It was developed when the space stone was first discovered. The space inside was less than 1 cubic meter, so it could not hold many things. However, it had once caused a rush to buy it. However, the space inside the Marching Stone was unstable and had collapsed several times. After a period of time, it was eliminated. However, there were still many martial artists who were reluctant to throw it away and kept using it. Most of them did not have any problems. Some martial artists who obtained the Marching Stone felt that it was inconvenient to carry it around, so they made it into a ring and inlaid it on their finger. This was the inspiration for the spatial ring. This ring belonged to Lao San. After opening it, there were several bank cards, 2 swords, a chain, and many other miscellaneous items inside. The bank cards were already useless to Lin Jun. He could not withdraw a single cent from them. In the future, it would be the bank that benefited. Other than the 2 weapons that were worth a little money, the rest of the items were worthless. Lin Jun was slightly disappointed and picked up another ring. This ring belonged to Ahua. Ahua was a spirit reader master. Generally, spirit reader masters were very rich. He hoped that he would not be disappointed this time. Other than the bank cards and other useless items, there was also a sword, a spear, and a tower shield. Is this all there is? Lin Jun rummaged inside again. After searching for a while, he found a stone in a corner. This is a meteorite. Lin Jun took it out and looked at it carefully. This stone was quite heavy. Its weight and volume did not match. Even Lin Jun felt that it was difficult to hold it. It probably weighed more than 100 kilograms. What is this? Lin Jun sat down and took out a chisel and scraper from the spatial ring. He began to clean the surface of the stone. Lin Jun was very familiar with this kind of thing. In less than half an hour, a golden stone the size of a goose egg appeared in Lin Jun's hand. A sharp gold chi overflowed from it from time to time. Wah! Lin Jun looked at the stone for a long time. He could not help but laugh out loud. It turned out that this was a planet's core. A planet's core that contained a sharp gold chi. Ahua did not know how to recognize the value of this stone. He did not know how to use it, so he simply threw it into a corner as a collection. In the end, it fell into Lin Jun's hands. The Leonid meteor shower descended on Earth. In fact, it was a star that shattered. The planet's core was also fragmented. The fragments that contained all kinds of energy were scattered all over the world. Lin Jun knew the whereabouts of some of the cores, but there were a few that he did not know. For example, he did not know the gold chi core. He did not expect it to be in Ahua's hands. This is great. With this thing, I have a new cultivation direction. Among the 5 elements, gold is the most important. If I can absorb this gold chi, whether it is injected into liquid metal or other weapons, it can raise the quality of the weapons by several levels. I can even use my bare hands to create metal sword chi. This core is just right for my cultivation. Lin Jun looked at the golden core. The gold chi within it had yet to be released. Holding it in his hand, he felt a prickly sensation. If he could absorb the gold chi within it, he would be able to cut through steel with his bare hands. Lin Jun carefully put the planet's core into his spatial ring. He felt that today was his lucky day. After tidying up his Tang suit, he walked out of the thicket with a red face. As soon as he came out, his eyes lit up. Su Mingwei was squatting there and making a wooden frame. The mantis leg that Lin Jun brought back had been peeled off. A wooden branch was turned into a tree stump and used as a table. There were even some concoctions on it. They were probably brought by Su Mingwei. Su Mingwei had unknowingly changed out of her white priest robe. She was wearing a red jacket and a red dress. Her waterfall-like hair was tied into 2 simple ponytails. Her small face was as white as jade. The current Su Mingwei was less cold and more beautiful. Under the contrast of the red jacket, she looked like a beautiful little sister. Seeing Lin Jun come out, Su Mingwei saw that he was also wearing a dark red Tang suit. She smiled and said, "It seems that we have the same thoughts. I also feel that today is the new year. We should wear something festive." Lin Jun walked over and squatted beside Su Mingwei. Smelling the faint fragrance on her body, she fiddled with the branches and said, "According to the traditional customs of our Huaxia people, elders or people of high status have to give people red packets during the new year. Although we are about the same age, you are the holy maiden of the holy sect of God's Grace Cathedral. You are the only one in the country. With your status, it is not too much for you to give me a red packet of hundreds of millions." Su Mingwei rolled her eyes at Lin Jun. "It's true that I'm the holy maiden, but the church's money is not under my control. I only have a little pocket money, and it's very little. Even if I give it all to you, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. It doesn't matter. It's a token of my appreciation. Give it to me." Lin Jun stretched out his hand without hesitation. Su Mingwei nodded. She really wanted to give him money, but when she took out her phone, she realized that there was no internet here. There was no way to transfer money to Lin Jun. Seeing that Su Mingwei was a little embarrassed, Lin Jun laughed. "You can't give me a red packet, right? Then remember that you owe me one. You'll pay me back double in the future." Lin Jun was just teasing Su Mingwei. He didn't expect her to nod seriously. "I will remember." Seeing Su Mingwei's serious look, Lin Jun knew that few people would joke with her. She took everything seriously. It was not good to joke around, so he cleaned up with Su Mingwei. Soon, the fire was lit. Lin Jun did it himself. Using a small piece of liquid metal as a skewer, he skewered the mantis legs and began to barbecue them on the spot. Su Mingwei sat next to Lin Jun and watched him barbecue the meat. She held her small face with both hands. Her watery peach blossom eyes blinked. Her long eyelashes were like 2 small fans. It was really pleasing to the eye. It was impossible to be in a bad mood. The mantis legs gradually changed color. Su Mingwei brought a complete set of seasonings. Lin Jun sprinkled salt, oil, and some chili and pepper. With all kinds of seasonings, the aroma came out. "Your cooking is really good. It smells so good. I haven't had a good meal in the past few days. Today, I can eat to my heart's content." How can I be your idol if I don't have these skills?" Lin Jun boasted shamelessly. However, his cooking skills were not just for show. In his previous life, Lin Jun had spent many years in the galaxy. Although he did not have any great skills, he was very proficient in eating. He had cooked this kind of meat thousands of times, so it was a piece of cake for him. Time to eat, little greedy cat. Lin Jun's meat was ready. The liquid metal turned into a table. After putting the food down, he took out a bottle of red wine. Want to drink some wine? Su Mingwe nodded. Sure. It's New Year. It's boring for you to drink alone, although I don't like the taste of wine. Then I'll be honored. The two sat on the wooden pile. Lin Jun raised his hand and broke off a table leg. Then, under Su Mingwe's surprised gaze, he turned it into a plate, wine cup, and knife. You're really extravagant. Liquid metal can actually be used like this. Haha. No matter how expensive it is, it's just an item. It's its honor to be used by its master. Releasing his mental power, the liquid metal table grew another leg, but the surface of the table became a little thinner. This was not a battle. It didn't matter if it was a little thinner or thicker. Chapter 148. Lin Jun spent the most peaceful and happy time in his little nest since he came to the stellar fruit tree. 09 Little Shoap Net. Sometimes he would hunt mutated beasts with Su Mingyue and look for star crystals in the vicinity. If there were any edible mutated beasts, Lin Jun would bring them back to make some delicious food. Under their diligent search, their harvest was not small. They found more than a dozen star core crystals, more than a dozen meteor crystals, 9 comet crystals, and even a planet crystal at a high place. Those small star crystals were all absorbed by Lin Jun. Because Su Mingyue was a rank 9 warlord, there was no effect on her absorbing them. Only the planet crystal Su Mingyue absorbed did her Danqian's qi increase a little. However, she still did not reach the peak of rank 9. At her level, she needed to absorb a stellar crystal to have an obvious effect. In addition to the comet crystal left behind by Lin Jun, his realm finally reached the late stage of rank 4. He was close to the peak stage. During their free time, the two would exchange pointers with each other. When he fought with Su Mingyue, Lin Jun found out how powerful she was. He used all his strength but still lost every time. He could only suppress Su Mingyue for a period of time when he occasionally seized the initiative and erupted with long river of lightning. However, Su Mingyue was always able to find a way to counterattack. The two fought many times, but Lin Jun's winning rate was always 0. Moreover, Lin Jun also found that Su Mingyue's memory was particularly strong. She could perform the moves that Lin Jun used after watching them a few times. She was indeed worthy of the title of genius. However, Lin Jun's improvement was also obvious. Su Mingyue found it harder and harder to beat him. Every time she won, Su Mingyue would be dripping with sweat. If it was purely a competition of physical strength, she was still a little worse than Lin Jun. Every time at this time, Lin Jun's task was to act as a guard and observe the surroundings to see if anyone was approaching. Su Mingyue would go to the pool to take a bath. Lin Jun was also very diligent in his vigilance. Although his heart fluctuated a lot, he never peaked. At night, the two people, besides chatting and stargazing, they would cultivate separately. Su Mingyue was also very diligent. The time she spent cultivating was no less than Lin Jun. However, Lin Jun didn't ask her what she was cultivating. This was the rule between warriors. The speed of absorbing the planet's core accelerated day by day. Lin Jun had told Su Mingyue at the beginning that she would wait for him for half a month. Within half a month, his cultivation should be able to come to an end. At that time, the two of them would leave. The first time Lin Jun absorbed 300 strands of gold qi, he absorbed 500 strands of gold qi on the second day. This was because he gradually adapted to the pain, and it was no longer so unbearable. On the third night, Lin Jun absorbed 800 strands of gold qi. On the fourth day, he absorbed 1,000 strands of gold qi. However, this was almost the limit. On the fifth and sixth days, he absorbed 1,000 strands of gold qi every day. The gold qi in the planet's core rapidly decreased. Every morning, when Lin Jun was in so much pain that his entire body twitched, Su Mingyue would quietly walk over and wipe away Lin Jun's sweat. Then, she would sit beside him and let Lin Jun rest his head on her soft jade-like legs. She would gently massage Lin Jun's muscles to relieve the pain. Her long hair casually scattered, and the fragrance of a young girl assaulted his nose. Lin Jun closed his eyes. The surrounding atmosphere was warm and somewhat ambiguous. At this time, Su Mingwe would also blush slightly. She knew that this wasn't good, but when she saw Lin Jun's unbearable pain, she would always feel uncomfortable in her heart. If this could make Lin Jun feel better, then she was willing to do it. These days continued for 12 days. On the 12th night, Lin Jun finally absorbed the last strands of gold qi in the planet's core. At this time, a change finally occurred in his dantian. More accurately, it was the dark star floating in his dantian that had undergone a change. Above the dark star, strands of gold qi flowed and fused with the lightning ions. Because they were both in his dantian and had the dantian qi as a connection, the two did not repel each other. In fact, they fused together perfectly. Gold qi is indestructible and incomparably sharp. It can be shot out of the body alone, and it can also cover a weapon. However, gold qi has a flaw, and that is that its speed is not that fast. But now that it has fused with the lightning ions, this flaw has been made up for. I can try out its effects now. Lin Jun opened his eyes. It was currently midnight. He suddenly raised his hand. His target was still the tree trunk that he had failed to absorb last time. Lin Jun opened his palm, and lightning crackled in his palm, illuminating the surrounding trees and causing them to sway. Go for me. Hundreds of strands of gold qi shot out from Lin Jun's palm, hitting the tree trunk in a fraction of a second. Pooh, pu, 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 pu. Wood shavings flew everywhere. Under the illumination of the lightning, Lin Jun saw that the part of the tree trunk that had been hit, which was about 10 square centimeters in size, had been turned into a sieve with countless tiny holes all over it. The gold qi pierced through the tree trunk and continued flying forward. It pierced through a few more leaves before finally disappearing from Lin Jun's sight. What a powerful might! This gold qi is really indestructible. Combined with the speed of the lightning ions, its killing power is multiplied. Against ordinary enemies, I don't even need to use a weapon. This gold qi sneak attack is enough to kill most of my opponents. And this is only combined with the lightning ions. If I can comprehend the power of the lightning ions, then the gold qi's power should be strengthened even further. After losing hundreds of strands of gold qi, the dark star in Lin Jun's body began to rotate. Lin Jun could clearly feel the gold qi regenerating. As long as he didn't use it all at once, Lin Jun's gold qi would never run out. After experimenting with the gold qi, Lin Jun stood up and took out the bright silver spear. With a move of his telekinesis, the gold qi poured into the bright silver spear. The originally silver spear turned into a gold and silver color. It was obvious that its strength had more than doubled. Very good. My bright silver spear isn't a rare divine weapon. The market value is only 30 million, but with the support of the gold qi, its power is second only to an astral weapon. Lin Jun had an astral weapon in his previous life. Although it wasn't the best, it was still not bad. Of course, he knew the importance of a good weapon. The bright silver spear could only be considered average. However, with the support of the gold qi, although it still couldn't compare to an astral weapon, it had already surpassed any weapon that could be bought on the market. After experimenting with the bright silver spear, Lin Jun poured the gold qi into the liquid metal. The liquid metal was also silver. After the gold qi poured in, it turned completely gold. Its strength and hardness had increased by more than one level. It was basically at the level of a divine weapon. Other than obtaining the gold qi, Lin Jun's other ability had also been strengthened. That was gravity. Before, when he absorbed a planet's core, the gravity was already very useful. It had helped Lin Jun a lot in many battles. Now that he absorbed a second planet's core, the gravity immediately doubled. When Lin Jun forcibly pulled a broken, incomparably huge tree trunk up, Lin Jun knew that his gravity could be used to deal with normal beginner-level war gods in battle. He put down the tree trunk that was pulled up, making a clanking sound. Feeling some movement behind him, Lin Jun turned around and saw Su Mingwe standing behind him. Today, Su Mingwe was wearing a light blue dress. Her long hair was gathered to one side of her neck. Her hands were placed in front of her stomach. She looked at Lin Jun as if she wanted to say something, but stopped. Mingwei, what's wrong? Aren't you practicing? Lin Jun asked. No, I'm watching you practice. Watching me? How long have you been watching? I've been watching for an entire night. Why didn't you call me? Su Mingwei glanced at Lin Jun. Your skills seem to have become very powerful. Have you basically succeeded? Lin Jun nodded with a bit of joy. Yes, I've basically succeeded. I've also absorbed the comet crystals here. We can finally leave and find more comet crystals. Congratulations. You said you'd succeed in half a month, but now you've succeeded in only 12 days. Yes, I plan to do it in half a month, but I've brought it forward by 3 days. So we'll leave here tomorrow morning? Su Mingwei asked again. Lin Jun nodded. He had basically completed everything that he wanted to do here. He had learned the Lightning Spear River, absorbed the Gold Star Core, strengthened the gravitational force, and improved his realm. Even after this period of cultivation, his spiritual power had improved by quite a bit. He had taken a big step forward on the path of Gold Intermediate and was officially starting to advance towards Gold Advanced stage. Compared to when he first entered the Stellar Fruit Tree, he was now much stronger. He was also confident that he wouldn't have to hide anymore after leaving this place. Instead, he would be able to compete with other students and even some older students. Since that was the case, why should he stay here? He and Su Mingwei had already explored the surrounding area, and there were basically no more comet crystals. Su Mingwei's expression seemed to be gloomy for a moment. Then she raised her head and smiled at Lin Jun. It's okay. Then you can call me tomorrow morning. After saying that, Su Mingwei returned to Lin Jun's little nest, as if she was going to sleep. Lin Jun was stunned for a moment. Then a knowing smile appeared on his face. Early the next morning, Lin Jun didn't call Su Mingwei to leave. Instead, he continued to cook delicious food. In the past few days, he had discovered that the flower buds in the fruit tree were edible, so he made a plate of stir-fried food to eat. It didn't matter even if he didn't have a pot. The liquid metal could be transformed at any time. Su Mingwei finished eating unhappily. Lin Jun still didn't say that he was going to leave. Instead, he pulled Su Mingwei to look at the stars. During the day, the trees were dark. Lin Jun told Su Mingwei a lot of half-truths and half-lies. Finally, Su Mingwei relaxed. She seemed to have noticed that Lin Jun didn't intend to leave immediately. Weaving vines, swinging, cooking, and telling stories. For 3 days, it was rare that the two didn't practice martial arts. Instead, they lived here as if they had forgotten everything in the outside world. On the morning of the 4th day, Lin Jun was on guard. Su Mingwei finished bathing. Then she took the initiative to say to Lin Jun, Idol, I've been very happy these past few days, but we should leave. We are martial artists. We can't be greedy for fun. Lin Jun smiled bitterly. He didn't know who was the one who was greedy for fun. The two packed up their things and prepared to leave. Su Mingwei looked back at the clear pool, and there was some reluctance in her eyes. Chapter 149. Lin Jun spent the most peaceful and happy time in his little nest since he came to the Stellar Fruit Tree. Sometimes he would hunt mutated beasts with Su Mingwei and look for star crystals in the vicinity. If there were any edible mutated beasts, Lin Jun would bring them back to make some delicious food. Under their diligent search, their harvest was not small. They found more than a dozen star core crystals, more than a dozen meteor crystals, 9 comet crystals, and even a planet crystal at a high place. Those small star crystals were all absorbed by Lin Jun. Because Su Mingwei was a rank 9 warlord, absorbing them didn't have any effect. Only the planet crystal Su Mingwei absorbed, which improved her Dantian's chi a little. However, she still didn't reach the peak of rank 9. At her current stage, she needed to absorb a stellar crystal to have an obvious effect. In addition to the comet crystal left behind by Lin Jun, his realm finally reached the late stage of rank 4, which was close to the peak stage. During their free time, the two would exchange pointers with each other. When he fought with Su Mingwei, Lin Jun discovered how powerful she was. He used all his strength, but still lost every time. Only when he occasionally seized the initiative and burst out with Long River of Lightning could he suppress Su Mingwei for a period of time. However, Su Mingwei always found a way to counterattack. The two fought many times, but Lin Zhen's winning rate was always 0. Moreover, Lin Zhen also discovered that Su Mingyue's memory was particularly strong. She could perform the moves that Lin Zhen used after watching them a few times. She was indeed worthy of the title of genius. However, Lin Zhen's progress was also obvious. Su Mingyue found it harder and harder to win against him. Every time she won, Su Mingyue would be dripping with sweat. If it was purely a competition of physical strength, she was still a little worse than Lin Zhen. Every time at this time, Lin Zhen's task was to act as a guard and observe the surroundings to see if anyone was approaching. Su Mingyue would go to the pool to take a bath. Lin Zhen was also very diligent in his vigilance. Although his heart fluctuated a lot, he never peaked. At night, the two people, in addition to chatting and stargazing, would cultivate separately. Su Mingyue was also very diligent. The time she spent cultivating was no less than Lin Zhen. However, Lin Zhen didn't ask her what she was cultivating. This was the rule between martial artists. The speed of absorbing the planet's core accelerated day by day. Lin Zhen had told Su Mingyue at the beginning that she would wait for him for half a month. Within half a month, his cultivation should be able to come to an end. At that time, the two of them would leave. The first time, Lin Zhen absorbed 300 strands of gold qi. On the second day, he absorbed 500 strands of gold qi. This was because he gradually adapted to the pain, and it was no longer so unbearable. On the third night, Lin Zhen absorbed 800 strands of gold qi. On the fourth day, he absorbed 1,000 strands of gold qi. However, this was almost the limit. On the fifth and sixth days, he absorbed 1,000 strands of gold qi every day. The amount of gold qi in the planet's core rapidly decreased. Every morning, when Lin Zhen was in so much pain that his entire body twitched, Su Mingyue would quietly walk over and wipe away Lin Zhen's sweat. Then, she would sit beside him and let Lin Zhen rest his head on her soft jade-like legs. She would gently massage Lin Zhen's muscles to relieve the pain. Her long hair casually scattered, and the fragrance of a young girl assaulted his nose. Lin Zhen closed his eyes. The surrounding atmosphere was warm and somewhat ambiguous. At this time, Su Mingyue would also blush slightly. She knew that this wasn't good, but when she saw Lin Zhen's unbearable pain, she would always feel uncomfortable in her heart. If this could make Lin Zhen feel better, then she was willing. These days continued for 12 days. On the 12th night, Lin Zhen finally absorbed the last strands of gold qi in the planet's core. At this time, a change finally occurred in his dantian. More accurately, it was the dark star floating in his dantian that had undergone a change. Above the dark star, strands of gold qi flowed and fused with the lightning ions. Because they were both in his dantian and had the dantian qi as a connection, the two did not repel each other. In fact, they fused together perfectly. Gold qi is indestructible and incomparably sharp. It can be shot out of the body alone, and it can also cover a weapon. However, gold qi has a flaw, and that is that its speed is not that fast. But now that it has fused with the lightning ions, this flaw has been made up for. I could try out its effects now. Lin Zhen opened his eyes. It was currently midnight. He raised his hand fiercely. His target was still the tree trunk that he had failed to absorb last time. Lin Zhen opened his palm, and a layer of electric light circled around it, illuminating the surrounding trees and causing them to sway. Go for me. Hundreds of strands of gold qi shot out from Lin Zhen's palm, hitting the tree trunk in a fraction of a second. Poo, pu, 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 pu. Wood shavings flew everywhere. Under the illumination of the lightning, Lin Zhen saw that the part of the tree trunk that had been hit, which was about 10 square centimeters in size, had been turned into a sieve with countless tiny holes all over it. The gold qi pierced through the tree trunk and continued flying forward. After piercing through a few leaves, it finally disappeared from Lin Zhen's sight. What a powerful might! This gold qi is really indestructible. Combined with the lightning ion speed, its killing power is multiplied. Against ordinary enemies, I don't even need to use a weapon. This gold qi sneak attack is enough to kill most opponents. And this is only combined with the lightning ions. If I can comprehend the power of the lightning ions, then the gold chi's power should be strengthened even further. After losing hundreds of strands of gold chi, the dark star in Lin Jun's body began to rotate. Lin Jun could clearly feel the gold chi regenerating. As long as he didn't use it all at once, Lin Jun's gold chi would never run out. After experimenting with the gold chi, Lin Jun stood up and took out the bright silver spear. With a move of his telekinesis, the gold chi poured into the bright silver spear, causing it to change. The originally silver spear turned into a gold and silver color. It was obvious that its strength had more than doubled. Very good. My bright silver spear isn't a rare divine weapon. The market value is only 30 million, but with the support of the gold chi, its power is second only to an astral weapon. Lin Jun had an astral weapon in his previous life. Although it wasn't the best, it was still not bad. Of course, he knew the importance of a good weapon. The bright silver spear could only be considered average. However, with the support of the gold chi, although it still couldn't compare to an astral weapon, it had already surpassed any weapon that could be bought on the market. After experimenting with the bright silver spear, Lin Jun poured the gold chi into the liquid metal. The liquid metal was also silver. After the gold chi poured into it, it turned completely gold. Its strength and hardness had increased by more than one level. It was basically a divine weapon. Other than obtaining the gold chi, Lin Jun's other ability had also been strengthened. That was gravity. Before, when he absorbed a planet's core, the gravity was already very useful. It had helped Lin Jun a lot in many battles. Now that he absorbed a second planet's core, the gravity immediately doubled. When Lin Jun forcefully pulled a broken, incomparably large tree trunk up, Lin Jun knew that his gravity could already be used to deal with normal beginner-level war gods in battle. He put down the tree trunk that was pulled up, making a clanking sound. Feeling some movement behind him, Lin Jun turned around and saw Su Mingwei standing behind him. Today, Su Mingwei was wearing a light blue dress. Her long hair was gathered to one side of her neck. Her hands were placed in front of her stomach. She looked at Lin Jun as if she wanted to say something, but stopped. Mingwei, what's wrong? Aren't you practicing? Lin Jun asked. No, I'm watching you practice. Watching me? How long have you been watching? I've been watching for an entire night. Why didn't you call me? Su Mingwei glanced at Lin Jun. Your skills seem to have become very powerful. Have you basically succeeded? Lin Jun nodded with a bit of joy. Yes, I've basically succeeded. I've also absorbed the comet crystals here. We can finally leave and go find more comet crystals. Congratulations. You said you'd succeed in half a month, but now you've succeeded in only 12 days. Yes, I plan to do it in half a month, but I've brought it forward by 3 days. So we'll leave here tomorrow morning? Su Mingwei asked again. Lin Jun nodded. He had basically completed everything that he wanted to do here. He had learned the lightning spear river, absorbed the gold star core, strengthened his gravitational force, and improved his realm. Even after this period of cultivation, his spiritual power had improved by quite a bit. He had taken a big step forward on the path of the intermediate gold rank and had officially begun his journey towards the late gold rank. Now, compared to when he first entered the stellar fruit tree, his strength was much stronger. He was also confident that he wouldn't have to hide anymore after leaving this place. Instead, he would be able to compete with other students and even some older students. Since that was the case, why should he stay here? He and Su Mingwei had already explored the surrounding area, and there were basically no more comet crystals. Su Mingwei's expression seemed to darken for a moment. Then, she raised her head and smiled at Lin Jun. It's okay. Then you can call me tomorrow morning. After saying that, Su Mingwei returned to Lin Jun's little nest. It seemed like she was going to sleep. Lin Jun was stunned for a moment. Then a knowing smile appeared on his face. The next morning, Lin Jun didn't call Su Mingwei to leave. Instead, he continued to cook. These days, he found that the flower buds in the fruit tree could be eaten. He specially made a plate of stir-fried food to eat. It didn't matter if he didn't have a pot. The liquid metal could be changed at any time. Su Mingwei finished eating unhappily. Lin Jun still didn't say that he wanted to leave. Instead, he pulled Su Mingwei to look at the stars. The trees were dim during the day. Lin Jun told Su Mingyue a lot of half-truths and half-lies. Finally, Su Mingyue relaxed. She seemed to have noticed that Lin Jun didn't want to leave immediately, weaving vines, swinging, cooking, and telling stories. For 3 days, the two of them didn't practice martial arts. Instead, they just lived here as if they had forgotten everything in the outside world. On the morning of the 4th day, Lin Jun was on guard. Su Mingyue finished bathing. Then, she took the initiative to say to Lin Jun, "Idol, I've been very happy these days. But we should leave. We are martial artists. We can't be greedy for fun." Lin Jun smiled bitterly. He didn't know who was the one who was greedy for fun. The two of them packed up their things and prepared to leave. Su Mingyue looked back at the clear pool. There was some reluctance in her eyes. Chapter 150. The northern area of the starfruit tree was the least populated. There were more people in the east, south, and west than in the north. This was because those 3 directions could all enjoy the sunlight. The starfruit tree absorbed the energy of the universe, but the celestial body that was the furthest away from the fruit tree was the sun. Sunlight was also one of the largest sources of energy in the universe. The north would never be exposed to sunlight, so the congenital conditions were insufficient. It was very difficult for star crystals to be born. Lin Jun and Su Mingyue walked out of the dense forest in the north. Su Mingyue asked, "Which direction are we going?" "Let's go to the ant nest in the west. Although there are more people there, we will have to come into contact with the crowd sooner or later. Besides, I have a strong bodyguard like Saint Su. If I don't dare to go there, I'll be too timid. Maybe in the past, but after watching you cultivate last night, I feel that I may not be able to defeat you. I may need your protection in the future," Su Mingyue said seriously. "Mingyue, don't belittle yourself. You're definitely the strongest among the warlords. Besides, haven't you noticed that your strength has improved a lot after we've been training together for so many days? I don't dare to say too much, but you can almost deal with the 2 advanced warlords of 494 last time by yourself." Su Mingyue also nodded seriously. "I think so too." Looking at this girl who didn't know how to lie and didn't even know how to be perfunctory, Lin Jun laughed and sped up. A few hours later, the heart tree lake appeared in front of them. "Let's go to the west. As long as we search slowly, we will definitely find the ant nest." Lin Jun had a headache at this time. He only knew that the ant nest was in the west, but he didn't know the specific location. The forest in the west was very large. If they searched slowly, they might not find it in half a month. The two came side by side to a main branch in front of the forest, not knowing if they should go this way. At this moment, someone suddenly came from behind. Lin Jun and Su Mingyue didn't move. They also wanted to see who was coming. Maybe they could find the exact location by asking someone. About 7 or 8 people came over. After turning around the shade, they were stunned when they saw Lin Jun and Su Mingyue. "Su Mingyue? Lin Jun? Why are you 2 together?" The person who spoke had an afro, but at this moment it looked more like a bird's nest. It was Lin Jun's roommate, Ma Mingxing. He was in the middle of the group. The handsome martial artist walking in front was Jiang Huai, who was known as the top warlord. Jiang Huai was ranked 3rd in the assessment. Not only did he lose to Su Mingyue, but he also lost to Li Chengjing. However, no one doubted Jiang Huai's battle prowess. He didn't lose to anyone in terms of willpower or battle prowess. It was even to the extent that Jiang Huai gave others the feeling that he was playing it down from beginning to end, as if he hadn't exerted his full strength, causing others to be unable to discern his true strength clearly. In addition to the 2 from Mo-Du, there were 2 from Beijing and a few martial artists from Tianfu Bay City. Lin Jun's roommate, Sun Tai, was among them. Jiang Huai was stunned when he saw Su Mingyue and Lin Jun together. But then he smiled. What a coincidence to meet the top 2 teams here. I wonder if the 2 of you are interested in joining us to go to the ant nest. You want to go to the ant nest? Do you know how to get there? Lin Jun asked. I know. One of us went there once, but he couldn't stay there alone, so he came back to find us. It wasn't easy for us to find these people, and we're ready to join forces. If the 2 of you join our team, we'll have a better chance. Jiang Huai's tone was very sincere. He sincerely invited Lin Jun and Su Mingyue to go with him. Lin Jun glanced at Su Mingwe. Su Mingwe smiled sweetly at Lin Jun. I'll listen to you. Lin Jun felt a headache coming on. Su Mingwe was a little naive, but she was definitely not stupid. What did she mean by saying this in front of so many people? Although the two of them had lived together for more than half a month, neither of them acted strangely. They were like two happy playmates. Everything was natural. Su Mingwe rarely smiled. These days, Lin Jun could count the number of times he had seen her smile, let alone such a big smile. She was definitely doing it on purpose. With Lin Jun's experience, he immediately came to this conclusion. Although he couldn't figure out what Su Mingyue's goal was at the moment, he still couldn't figure out. Sure enough, Su Mingyue's cute and lovable appearance and sweet smile shocked everyone present. Lin Jun looked at the stunned crowd and hurriedly said to Jiang Huai, "All right, we'll go with you. You guys walk in front." Jiang Huai made an O sound and forgot to express his happiness. He got up and walked in front. The rest of the cultivators walked in a single file, following the huge tree branch forward. When Ma Mingxing passed by Lin Jun, he secretly gave him a thumbs up. "Lin Jun, I finally understand why that damn fatty Zhang Yu called you his idol. It turns out that you're not only good at martial arts, but other aspects are also admirable. From now on, you're also my idol." Lin Jun didn't wait for a reply. Ma Mingxing walked over. The martial artist behind also walked over. Lin Jun and Su Mingwe followed behind and could still hear their conversation. "Oh my God, am I seeing things?" Su Mingwe just smiled, and her smile was so beautiful. "It's the first time I've seen her smile in the capital Bay City. She's indeed my goddess. All right, you better save it. She wasn't smiling at you. Why are you being so cocky?" "Yeah, what's the relationship between Su Mingwe and Lin Jun? Look at her following Lin Jun step by step, as if she's afraid that Lin Jun will run away. Could it be that Lin Jun did something beastly and doesn't want to take responsibility? Are you stupid? Who wouldn't want to take responsibility when Su Mingwe follows him? Unless he's not a man anymore. She's in love with him. It's over, it's over. My goddess is getting married. Lin Jun is too lucky. I want to duel with him. Duel my ass. If you dare to touch Lin Jun now, I bet Saint Su will kill you first." "I think so too. Go ahead. Didn't they say that if you die under a peony, you'll still be a romantic ghost? If Saint Su can kill you personally, you won't have lived in vain. On this day next year, I'll come here to see your soul in heaven. Get out of here. Is that what you mean by dying under a peony? Besides, I didn't say anything. It's just that her smile is too beautiful. Don't tell me you guys don't want to see it. I won't believe it, even if you beat me to death." Lin Jun and Su Mingwe walked behind them. The buzzing discussions were like flies. Lin Jun glanced at Su Mingwe. Her pretty face was calm, as if they weren't talking about her at all. Lin Jun smiled bitterly. "Why are you doing this?" Su Mingwe replied, "I don't like people always surrounding me. This way, even if someone wants to harass me, they'll have to go through you first. In the future, you'll be in front of me, and I'll hide behind you. Remember, don't think I'm annoying. Sure, you're the only one in the world who can be so righteous and let others be your shield. Because I believe in you." Su Mingwe replied indifferently. She wasn't joking. Lin Jun was slightly stunned. After that, he didn't say anything. He took 2 steps forward and led Su Mingwe to the front of the group. He wasn't used to following behind like this. Jiang Huai saw Lin Jun walking over and smiled. Brother Lin is so lucky. Without waiting for Lin Jun's reply, he changed the topic and called out to Ma Mingxing. "Ma Mingxing, haven't you been to the ant nest before? Come and tell Brother Lin and Miss Su about the situation there. Let's all listen and be prepared." Ma Mingxing walked to the front and said to Lin Jun and Su Mingwe, "I've been to the ant nest before. At that time, I was separated from everyone. In the end, I found this place. I've already told them about it, so I'll tell you again. The ant nest is a huge area of dead branches. There are many dried branches and leaves there. It's not as clean as other places. Moreover, that place is more windy. After a long time, dust accumulated like a small mountain, and it became a paradise for ants. There must be a lot of ants." Lin Jun interrupted. "That's right. I believe that everyone has seen many insects here, but you definitely haven't seen a large group of mutated ants. That scene was densely packed. How should I describe it? Ma Mingxing thought for a while and said 2 words: shocking. Yes, it's shocking. The ants there are mainly divided into 3 types. The first type is the largest number of worker ants. Each of them is the size of a tiger in the Christian calendar. There's no way to count the number of these things. They collect food and carry things. Their combat power isn't very strong, but their numbers are huge. In addition to worker ants, there are also very powerful soldier ants. They are 4 to 5 times the size of worker ants. There are also a lot of these things. Although they don't look like a lot at ordinary times, once someone dares to invade the ant nest, you will see countless soldier ants appear. These things are very strong. Although they are not as strong as other insects individually, no one can resist them when they swarm together. I saw with my own eyes that a 9th-level warlord was instantly swallowed by hundreds of soldier ants and turned into a skeleton. Then what about soldier ants and worker ants? Su Minghua asked. Hearing the beauty's question, Ma Mingxing suddenly became spirited. In addition to worker ants and soldier ants, there's another type of flying ant. These ants have wings. They usually lurk in the leaves and the surrounding dead branches above the ant nest. If a flying insect or a spirit reader tries to get close, they will die very miserably. There are so many ants. You dare to go? Of course we have to go. It's because very few people can get close to that place. Over the years, a lot of star crystals have accumulated there. Among them, almost no star core crystals can be seen. The lowest is a meteor or comet. There are even planets and stars. Of course, there are those who are not afraid of death.